You're listening to episode 339 of the Major Issues Podcast, and on this episode, we finish part 2 of our 2-part Grant Morrison new X-Men recap and review. The Major Issues Podcast starts right now! Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason: a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by ComicBookClique.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
What up, everybody? It's John Escudero, aka Yogi. I'm excited.
Yogi is in the house. We got some unfinished business here as part of the Major Issues Podcast. Last week, we went on a deep dive on the first half of Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, a quintessential group of issues when it comes to X-Men lore, and we are here to finish the job. We are all X-Men'd out this entire month. Next episode, we'll be covering Deadpool Kills Deadpool, all in service of not only Deadpool and Wolverine, which is set to come out in about 2-ish weeks, but the introduction of the X-Men into the MCU, which we know is right on the cusp of happening. In the myriad of X-Men stories, you can kind of get muddied into some of the bad stuff, but we wanted to show you guys, because if all you've ever done is seen X-Men films, you might be wondering what other stories can be told. And we thought it'd be an excellent thing to cover this run of comics in celebration of all
it's
that
almost
kind of
it's almost a perfect bridge, I thought, from X-Men 97 to Deadpool and Wolverine, because of the way it both projects take elements from this run. With X-Men 97, there's multiple plot points that are either inspired by or directly lifted from this entire run of comics by Grant Morrison. And then you have Deadpool and Wolverine, which is taking Cassandra Nova, Charlie X, and putting her in the MCU.
Right.
So I only imagine it won't just be the character. There's probably one or two elements from the book that we'll be seeing in live action too. I imagine something like Deadpool, you'll see the womb fight. There's no way. Come on.
Or it's something that will be said and Deadpool like, what?
Oh no, it's perfect, because they'll give the little fetus, they'll give it Patrick Stewart's voice.
Be gone.
Be gone. I want this clipped so that after Deadpool comes out, we got that shit. No, that's great.
So I'm loving all that they're doing with this. We'll be also talking, besides the second half of this, kind of how Grant was treated by Marvel Comics as he was the goose laying these golden eggs for the publisher. It's almost ironic now for us to talk about them cherry picking some stuff from this run, when initially all they could do was tell him not to do the things that he was doing in this run. So I wonder how they are taking on, seeing from a distance a bit of their creations, a bit of their storylines taking fold in a world where
that always happens.
At one point, they weren't even considered.
That always happens. There's always somebody who's doing exactly what they don't want them to do, and they get it, and they end up making something iconic, legendary.
Yeah. So in the first half, we covered 5 different story arcs, as well as the annual. I believe there's only 4 here in this time around. But what do you think about this second half compared to the first?
It flew right by. There was definitely, you could tell there was a lot of not just editorial interference, but also Grant Morrison just being like, I hate this job. This stick. Certain thing. I didn't hate any of it. I'll say that much. I had a good time the entire way through. It felt like a complete story. I'll take it with me in that way, as a complete story. I think there are some things that got retconned and changed afterwards that some people were really welcome. Even though it ended up getting really muddied and weird, and nobody actually, pretty much everybody agrees today that this was a bad move. back then, or even some people today, still like agree with some of those changes. We'll talk about those.
Yeah. What's interesting is of the four that we cover, it's almost as if the first story that we're gonna cover is like editorial, is like just, back to basic X-Men. The second story seems to be all Grant with the world, right? This idea of this virtual reality timeless like bubble, and then we go back to the regular kind of mustache twirling villain stuff that we'll talk about with Planet X, and then we go back to Morrison with the future and all that encapsulates that.
I think I don't even know if some of those grand ideas are more editorial, because I think Morrison generally is really a big fan of classic superhero storytelling, and I think he understands that some of X-Men like you don't have an X-Men story if you don't have those soap opera esque dramatic or interpersonal storylines. Like, it's not X-Men, it's just another superhero thing. But then there's some times where you have to be just another superhero thing, because that's kind of what you want. That's what you want out of X-Men, even if you think you don't. Like, you still want you want that, and that's why you're here. That's how you got here. You know. So I think some of the editorial stuff, it comes with it comes with like some of the character decisions that the characters make, and editorials like you have to use these people again, and you kind of you're kind of making them unusable horrible people, like and X-Men's.
And I was gonna say that just reminds me of the criticism for supposedly the reason why Moore had to use Charlton characters instead of DC characters for his Watchmen series, because they were like, no, we need people to care about these characters after the fact, and what you're doing with them will end up making them irredeemable. Some of these characters.
That says something, though, that even a stressed out, I don't want to be here, Grant Morrison is better than like 85% of people who write comic books.
Yeah. He got it across the finish line. He'd finished the story.
Yeah, he did. He had ideas for more, even. He wasn't even done. Like, he wasn't tapped out. He just kind of cut himself off. Like, all right, this is where, you know what? I'm cutting it off at this first arc. It's like if Jeff Johns had stopped doing Green Lantern after Sinestro Corps. Like, you know what? Fuck it. This I had like a whole 3-act thing, but this is
like ending. They don't appreciate this. They aren't appreciating the stuff I'm doing. Slow burn stuff, man.
Hate y'all.
Last we left off in this book, Cyclops had been confronted after doing some extramarital affair stuff in his mind with Emma Frost.
I was really going back and forth with how to even describe that as an affair, like a psychic affair, because on a basic level, you're like, we're thinking about having sex, like
yeah.
People think about having sex all the time.
Right. Well, it goes, and this is obviously deep waters, but it goes into all that, like, is texting cheating, is texting cheating. It's like all we're doing is talking about it, no one's actually committing the acts.
I think it's the intimacy. You're not supposed 100%. To share that intimacy with someone that isn't your other. But at the same time, I mean, we'll recap. We'll recap it, but because we've talked about how we got here already, so we don't really have to, like, they're just about to fucking fight. This is about to be a psychic fight. But I was just kind of thinking, like, it doesn't feel like Emma Frost was taking advantage, or maybe like when it started, she was like, I just want to play with this. Like, what is he talking about? Celibacy, this is ridiculous. Look at me, know, and then she ends up actually falling in love with Scott, and I just kind of thought, and I was just thinking about Scott, who actually was feeling like he was in a dead marriage. Like, this was real. This is actually what happened. And as much as as powerful as Jean is, and as much as everybody should be scared of her, it's like there's certain accountability that she just didn't take here.
I can see that. I can see it, because if he's made his choice, if these two adults have made their choice, regardless of her wrath, their choice is made, right? Like, they have the freedom to do as they please. But one of the things that makes it so interesting is this idea, like you said, it's almost like Emma took Cyclops's Boy Scout routine as a dare.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what? So you don't want to even sleep with me? All right, we're about to test those limits. Yeah. And in trying to corrupt him, he purified her in a weird way. And thus, when she's left out, like, she's almost disgusted with herself that she got attached to or cares. It's a very interesting layer to that character, and to Cyclops as well, because he goes through it in trying to reconcile in his mind why he would do these things and how he ended up in this position in the first place.
I just think a lot of people that explore this story and this aspect of the story, it's always like, fuck Cyclops. But I'm like, I'm reading this, and I'm like, how could it possibly have always been fuck Cyclops? Like, this dude was fucking going through it. Nobody cares about him. Nobody cares what Cyclops is going through. It's crazy to me. I was like, damn, I feel bad. I feel so bad for him. He's going through it the whole run. This apocalypse thing from the last run, it never leaves him. Like, it's the entire time he's like dealing with this shit. Nobody ever helps him figure it out, except for Logan, who kind of takes him under the wing. He's like, let's fucking go out.
But after like kicking him in the dick all like for the first half of the comic, first half of this run, he's just like, kicking him in the dick repeatedly. But it goes to like and maybe it's X-Men 97 that's a bit that's kind of giving me the context for this, but this, like, the pure weight of all of this. This isn't like when we talk about the Justice League, sometimes it's like the world, or it could even be like any specific city, Central City, whatever. But like, this is the entire mutant race is on this man's shoulders.
Yeah.
And the one person that was supposed to lead them all is gone. And what do we do with this, and how does he reconcile? And when he can't even trust himself, he's supposed to be the North Star, and he can't even trust himself in this instance because of what happened with this apocalypse stuff, and now he's being playing around with Emma. To me, the Emma stuff crossed the line when we're on mission. When we're on mission and you're flying and you're not paying attention or whatever, that's to me that becomes like,
He was like, hey, co-pilot this. I just got some nudes. Did that happen in the last? Was that the last run?
It has
the last
to be, because
half? That was the last half.
I don't think they get to any more fun.
We'll recap this, though.
Let's go.
The very first page, we got the Emma Frost pose. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it here. I just wanted to. Why is she always sitting like this?
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird, and like, is that defiance? The fact that she's not turning?
Well, there's that. Like, I'm not scared of you, but there's also like, she's always sitting. Like, even when she's chilling in the house, like in a chair, like you shouldn't be sitting. Like, how do you? It's real. I'm sure it smells like flowers. I don't have.
You gotta let it breathe.
I don't have a second question about that. I know Emma Frost from reading this. She's probably ends up being one of my favorite characters in this run. Next is Warren before he fucking
before all that, before the wheels fall off of that.
Well, she's about to get her ass beat.
Yeah, they did you see in the concept art they almost gave her short hair? They almost gave her kind of like British punk.
Yeah. I think he always wanted to go with British punk, but this look that they gave her, the way it's a materialistic look that she built herself to hide her flaws, and that really works so well for Emma.
We're definitely gonna get into it now. So this arc is called Murder at the Mansion, with art by Phil Jimenez. Great art in this series. So
excellent.
Again, if you guys don't know, when we do our full recaps and reviews, this is a truncated version of each issue. I'm doing play-by-play, and my man doing color commentary is Yogi. He'll be coloring in after I deliver some of the facts. So we'll be stopping at various moments to discuss how the story unfolds. But in issue number 39, which is where we left off, in this mental bedroom created by telepathy, Jean catches Emma Frost trying to seduce her husband. Wanting to deal with this alone, Jean telepathically kicks Scott out and moves the showdown to Emma's quarters. This is already like, and I've seen this happen like in the cheater videos.
Yeah,
right, where it's like,
this is scary.
Me alone. Yeah,
I'm scared for him.
Yeah, and she's all flamed out. She's phoenixed up. Yeah, she's all phoenixed up. So it's a lot. Using her Phoenix powers, Jean starts to explore Emma's memories, seeing everything from her childhood with her family to her time in the Hellfire Club. This feels like a new ground that hasn't been covered yet. That Grant's actually covering.
Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah.
about this whole like redheaded stepchild? Like not quite literally redheaded stepchild, but what do you think about Emma's background here?
Well, I mentioned before in the last episode that I read, and I didn't know this at the time, but I had read a 12-issue miniseries about Emma Frost that kind of takes those little tidbits that Grant Morrison laid down and expands upon them and creates a more fuller picture of Emma Frost. So I was a little familiar with this. I was like, okay, that's how I know she's got the breast enhancements. So she's got the fake blonde hair, and this is the persona that she built for herself. And that's why I know that she loves teaching, because she was a
Yeah.
teacher before she did that. Before she changed herself, she was a teacher in Boston, and that's a whole thing that they expanded upon. So I like that about Emma Frost a lot. I again, she ends up being one of my favorite characters in this run.
You were talking about how a lot of this is in gray, and some people try to put this in black and white. Is this, what do you call this? Invasion of privacy? What do you sit on this? Is she cruel for doing this, or are she just giving Emma something back in return for all of that, all that she's caused?
I think it's definitely cruel, but it's like this is a scorned, wife, like this is kind of the action, the reaction to the action. Like, I don't know, like I can't be like, oh no, Jean, stop. Like, she's not killing her, like she's not leaving. She could lobotomize her. Like, she could leave her a drooling baby, and the worst she's making her do is relive a couple not even traumas. Like, hey, look, your childhood sucked. Like she's like, fuck. Like, she didn't even get beat. She wasn't like, even though she could have found something, like, oh, you got an uncle under here. Oh, fuck.
Here's all your nudes.
I didn't know about your porn career.
Yeah.
But no, this is not bad. I feel Emma's got it bad, but she can steal herself so well. And even though it doesn't, even in this case, it's too much for Emma.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know that it's gone too far. It just is a fight, like
it's also one of those things. Yeah, this is her pulling the girl by her hair out of the hotel room. So you just kind of sit and wait. You just sit and wait for everything to kind of dim down, and then we'll revisit. Yes. So Jean is determined to figure out what really happened between Emma and Scott in Hong Kong. And this is something that even carries over from the first half of the comics that we were listening to, or we were reading and reacting to, where every time they would cut to Hong Kong, we would get an abrupt end and not figure out what was going on after she showed up there with drinks, talking about, hey, how's that whole celibacy thing going?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Scott finally manages to break into Emma's quarters and tells Jean to take the memory from his mind instead. When she does, she finds out Scott was faithful all along.
You freaking dummy.
and Scott stepping up against Jean to defend Emma in this moment. What is that? Well, did you expect that?
It's not like, this is the thing. He shared the intimacy with her, right? Like he brought her here too. Like he can't just abandon. Like, whoa, too fucking bad. You got to deal with the Phoenix now. Like, that's not.
What's Beak doing? Right. I hear Beak. I'm going to hang out with Beak for a little bit.
That's not fair at all. So yeah, that makes sense that he would step up and at least say something. And it's kind of, I think the thing that pissed him off the most, my favorite thing, is that everyone is like, but Scott, relax. She's got the Phoenix. He's like, shut the fuck up about the Phoenix.
Right.
And they're like, what are you talking about? Just leave this alone. Like, what? Yeah. Shut up.
I just love how she forced close the door. But yeah, he's not dealing with that. And even though he's cleared, he's still angry about the whole situation, and he takes off on Logan's special bike. They make a point for that, but does that ever come back around?
It's just something that they do to each other all the time. I think you even see it. You saw it in the cartoon, I think, once or twice, where he just kind of takes Scott's car and he fucking cuts it in half. You
definitely see it in the film. Remember?
He did it in the movie. He did take his motorcycle.
He took his motorcycle.
These guys are assholes. Fucking assholes.
Grand Theft Auto. So Emma left raw and emotional, admits to Logan that she's in love with Scott. Also, now that I just said that out loud, Logan is is like the group therapist in this comic.
Well, there's that, but I thought this was an awesome moment because they're literally both the same person. I think like he's been. I've been here for years. I've just been watching. He's just been on the sidelines. He never said anything about this Scott Emma thing. I think it was Beast that was like telling Scott, like, "Hey, fucking relax."
And Logan, he's like, "Aren't you gay?" That's basically how that conversation went.
That's exactly how that happened.
And then they both went, "You know what? No judgment. Don't judge me. I won't judge you. Leave it where it's at."
So Logan's funny because he's actually just been watching from the sidelines the whole time, and then in her moment of weakness, she has him who like, "I've been through it. Like, I'm here now. I am the group therapist. I am literally 300 years old." Like, and there's the fact that she let herself feel it, which is something that she did not have to do. Unless it's an extreme situation, she can usually steel herself by just turning into a diamond, but she just cried it all the way out to Logan's shoulders, and he's just like, there. I've been here many nights. I'm going to get a drink.
Her swagger won me over early, but you gotta assume that it was this issue that was meant to win over the rest of the readers, to kind of let you know that her plans weren't nefarious, even though they might have presented themselves early on as that. And in true Walking Dead fashion, if anyone is given any semblance of character development, that means that something bad's about to happen.
I didn't want to bring up before we moved on a cool little fun fact.
Sure.
That I never fucking noticed until I was reading, and I sent you a screenshot. At one point, we are in Emma Frost's mind, and we're looking through her memories, and it turns out she has like brother who went crazy. He got addicted to drugs. He's got a sister. She's got another one who's a freaked out punk girl. But there's one sister, Adrienne. And Adrienne is literally just Adrienne from The Sopranos. She's made no attempt to. There it is.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see. It's the hair's a dead giveaway, but yeah.
Wait. Imagine she would have came out with that accent. That would have been a whole nother.
There's no way to tell. She might. They're in Boston.
Boston. So later on, Beast goes to Emma's room to try to cheer her up, but instead finds her shattered in thousands of pieces in her diamond form, apparently dead. This is huge for many reasons, because as you were just saying, like, she was seemingly indestructible in her diamond form, and she's not in this moment here. So that kind of thrusts us into a whodunit with this murder at Xavier's. We get our cops, our Law and Order cops show up, Bishop and Sage. And Bishop's all matrixed out. Like, he's got the black leather coat. He's chilling.
I didn't even want to come here.
I was off today. So Sage and Bishop show up at the Xavier Institute after being invited to investigate Emma Frost's apparent murder. They quickly figure out that Emma was killed by a diamond bullet that struck a flaw in her diamond form. They start questioning everyone, from students to instructors, including Beast, Professor Xavier, Zorn, Angel, the Stepford Cuckoos, and Jean Grey. Jean is the only one Bishop rules out as a suspect after she telepathically convinces him of her innocence in a way he can't even explain. I love that too. He's like, "I don't know what I just saw. She ain't do that shit."
It wasn't her. Pretty sure she just flashed him. He was like, I think the nipples were like birds. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't her. It was not her.
Show me again, real quick. Let me get in there again.
Before you talk, I guess we'll talk about the special class, because I hate the way they write Angel. Like, Grant Morrison got, like, he in his mind he thought like this is what inner city children are like.
Or inner city children angst. I'm trying to figure out where he's rounding the corner.
She's like a weird caricature. I'm like, this is, I don't know if this is racist.
Yeah, she's a second away from snapping.
No, I feel like she's there. She is right there.
At some point.
I was even gonna say, did they give her hoop earrings? They did give her hoop earrings.
Wow.
They did give her.
And you know, if we would have kept writing, she would have got her name in the earrings.
What? She got the name. She got the. Okay, this got to go for Phil Jimenez. This is Phil Jimenez. That's a Jimenez because he knew she got the name chain on. It says.
Oh,
Angel.
you see, I was close.
It says Angel.
I was close. I was close.
You ain't gonna fuck with me or my bird though, or my bird husband.
Yeah, she's Angel Salvador. So
is she?
Some, you know, yeah, yep.
That's my bird baby. I hate him, but I love him.
I love Daddy. I love him. What happens with them in here? Because the next thing I got is they're chasing a lead about Kick.
Oh, okay. So actually, they do walk up in the classroom and they want to interrogate the children, but they pull Angel to the side first, and she's giving them that. This is what made me bring that up because she gives them the attitude like, "How should I know? Like, what are you talking about?" But of course, I even though she already acts like that, that's why I didn't have any reason to think anything.
No, 100%. 100%. Like, yeah.
But now thinking back, I feel like she was probably being defensive. But even then, they just interview everybody. The Stepford Cuckoos, they're the ones who tell him, we were with Beast watching a movie at the theater, and when they go interrogate, I think Beast's having a conversation with G, and she's like, they can just make you see that, right?
Yeah.
He's like,
well, at first they almost kind of make it seem like it was Beast. Because she goes, it was canceled. That showing him. Of whatever. It's him.
It's him.
He can't help but be sinister.
Fucking idiot. No, they're investigating everybody in the story, and he's such an attention whore. He's like, and I know you think it's me, but it's not. And the whole book, he's like, I'm working on something so that I can prove my innocence because I know they think it's me. Fuck up, Beast. Like nobody's even talking to you. She's like, but weren't you not even there? Like when he's like, yeah, you're right. I was at the theater. And then she tells him,
I forgot I had an alibi.
But then even the alibi, she's like now talking about it. That actually is weird. Like that is not even completely proven because they could just make you see that shit.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just the whole interrogation thing of it was just a fucking hilarity. Like I said,
and also I mean, I know this. Maybe this is an invasion of privacy as well. Couldn't Phoenix have figured this whole thing out?
I think the idea is that she doesn't do that to the people in the school, right? She doesn't go in their brains just to. Yeah. It was them. She just doesn't do that because that's an invasion. That's an invasion of privacy. Yeah.
That and sure. I buy that reason for 90%, and the last 10% is it was Emma. So she was like, they're like, Gene, can you scan them? I'm busy. I got something to do.
It was really find anything. It was really cool though doing this arc. I think the whole arc, from the perspective of Bishop and Sage, so you kind of run across every single character, and you only get like a snippet version of them. Like, so and
they have no allegiance. They have no loyalty. They don't. Yeah, they're coming in on a scene here, so everyone's a suspect. That's what leads them. They find out about Kick, and so they end up visiting Omega Gang member Redneck in prison. Redneck tells him he got the inhalers from Quentin Quire, who bought them in the woods behind the school. Back at the Institute, a tearful Beak confesses to Beast that he was the one selling the Kick drug and that he accidentally killed Miss Frost. And I think instantly they're like, no, you didn't. like, no, you didn't. Why are you saying that you did?
They take him to Professor X and he's like, I don't even have to be a telepath. Like, I don't have to use any powers. You're a bad liar. Like, this is you're a Beak.
You can't fly and you can't shoot. So why? This is not a thing. So I thought that was hilarious. Because everything he does is like dramatic. There's a lot of Beak moments where he's just like literally crying and saying like, please, for the love of God, stop the madness. And this is one of those scenes where he's like, oh my God, you guys don't understand. I killed her. I took the gun and I killed her. And they're like, no, you didn't. Why are you saying all that?
At least this time he had a reason. Like he definitely had a reason to be acting like that. Because before it's just Angel trying to make a move on him in the forest. He's like, "Oh, please give me a moment."
Don't forget when he got out after beating up Hank. He's like, "Oh my God, beat the hell out of Hank! I didn't mean to do it."
Killed him. Again, that's a moment where it makes sense. Because I'm like, I don't even want them to think it was me. I don't know what happened.
And also, we also forget this is all like his first week at the school.
That's right.
He gets there, he gets sexually harassed. He beats down one of his mentors down near to death. And now we're in a situation where one of his teachers is dead.
He got a girl pregnant too. He's got a girl pregnant.
He got kids to worry about.
I don't want to say another thing about Angel that's like, she's the one who ended up with a teen pregnancy.
Yeah. Because she wanted to get busy. Like,
that's fine.
In the dirt.
It's exactly what it's. I live in the inner city. I'll tell you that shit is real.
Yeah.
There's many angels.
I was about to say, did you have a pregnant girl in your high school?
I was the pregnant.
You were Angel.
I was Angel.
You were Peak. Oh no, pregnant.
What do you mean? Please don't touch me.
So, while he's confessing to that, Sage follows Bishop's lead and finds a set of inhalers in the woods alongside an old cabin. Inside the cabin, she discovers dozens of cocoons hanging from the ceiling, and she finds the murder weapon, but unfortunately, it's in the hands of someone who is now pointing it at her.
That was an easy cliffhanger. I was like, well, that's damn sure Angel. Like that's I tell that
those are her kids. So yeah,
these are my fucking babies.
Yeah, right.
I hope she threw them up at least.
They came out of somewhere. So in the woods behind the Xavier Institute, Bishop finds Sage collapsed. Her computer brain effectively shut down. After a quick reboot, they head back to the shack she discovered and find dozens of eggs hanging from the rafters. They also find a pistol. Back at the Institute, Beak confesses to shooting Emma Frost, like we said, but Xavier and Beast don't buy it. The story just doesn't add up. As proof of his motive, Beak reveals that Angel was pregnant and that Miss Frost knew. When Bishop and Sage return with the news of their discovery, Xavier and Zorn decide to investigate the shack themselves.
Is that why she took Angel shopping? Was this before or after the pregnancy reveal?
Well, that's one of the things they say in the thing, right? That's one of the things they say in the interrogation. They're like, you were shopping with her, and she was like, I'm gonna fuck, she wore new clothes. I don't know this woman. I mean, I wonder if she got her some baby clothes. So
no, go ahead. I was gonna say, did they tell us how many kids are there?
No, they don't ever say it. There seems to be a bunch, and I don't know about like the survivability of because I think at the end it's like 3. I think like when you start hanging out with Zorn, I think there's like 3 kids or maybe even 2. But
what happened to 8. All your creature babies? They don't have a good survival rate, so we're happy we have 2.
Do you see what half of the genetics is? Half of the genetics is Beak, and he can barely with his anxiety, he can barely.
Some of their limbs are like really bad. I can't even. They're like really bad. Like I can zoom in on this one. This one's got feather forearms. He doesn't even have wings. He's got. I don't know.
Those eyes can't be good for anybody. I don't think those eyes help anyone. You don't ever hear Beak like, oh, I see, I'm using my supervision. No, he don't have supervision. He just has regular bird-ass eyes. So meanwhile, Beast focuses on reassembling Emma's shattered body. What do you think that's about?
I think he just he said he
is that the guilt thing again?
Well, no, it's
it can't
it's
be me.
Emma,
I'm
it's
putting
Emma
back
psychic.
together.
It's Emma's psychic presence. Because Jean feels her too when she walks by. She's like, oh shit. There is somebody in there. And Gene, and you figure Beast probably doesn't even realize why he's doing this. He just is. He just feels like he has a reason. But essentially, just like when Xavier took his fucking body over to the to bring him out of the morgue, he's just being driven.
Well, it's a good thing he will never have his body co-opted by anybody else in the future of this story.
Oh, Beast, wear a shield.
So, Jean joins him using Beast's telepathically lent medical knowledge and the Phoenix Force to fully reassemble and reanimate Emma Frost. Emma's then brought back to life. At the cabin, Xavier and his group find Angel with the children from the hatched eggs. They're hers and Beak's, already toddler aged and flying around and adorable. Also a sad thought, if they're already toddler aged, is this one of those like accelerated?
Oh gosh!
Accelerated
oh no, they live
last a couple weeks.
No, because we do we will see some of them later on.
Ancestors or
descendants. We'll see descendants. Did we talk about well, you mentioned Gene bringing Emma Frost back. Obviously, that's like one of my favorite shots in the book. I wish that I'm sure somewhere out there on the internet.
It reminds me of the adrenaline shot of in Pulp Fiction. It just comes up.
Because there's the way they do the damn camera is never gonna focus on it.
No, I think you're better right there. I think it's pretty good.
The background behind those three panels is like a full image. I would love that. I need that in my life, and I'll never have it. I'll never have it.
I will say that regardless of who's drawing her, the Phoenix form in this is always gorgeous.
Everybody wants a shot at it. I think all the artists did it once. I think every artist did a Phoenix shot with her fully her full body with the Phoenix fire around her. So I wish I would have saved them all so we could have made a collage. Which one is the best?
Yeah. I thought there was some pretty awesome artwork there. And again, like now after everything they've been through, for her to bring her back to life, I think that's good on Jean there. So after analyzing the murder weapon, Bishop and Sage conclude that Angel is the culprit, but Xavier isn't convinced that she actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah. He's strong. He's strong. I mean, he just smelled it. Oh, that'll smell like Angel. The fuck?
But he's the one lawyer in that Central Park 5 that's like, they didn't do it. Like, she didn't do it just because she's an inner city kid. and her fingerprints are on the gun.
He's like, hold on.
She did it. Yeah.
Hold on, Angel. I've seen this before.
Yes. They're trying to lock her ass up.
Can we talk about Esme?
We're about to. Because at the front gate of the school, Bishop and Sage confront Esme, who's trying to leave the school. They reveal their conclusion to her. She wanted control of the Cuckoos and was behind Sophie's death during the riot. She also telepathically coerced Angel into shooting Miss Frost. When Bishop asks who she's leaving to meet, Esme mocks him, telepathically renders them both catatonic, and escapes in a driverless taxi.
I thought it was an interesting decision to reveal it the way that they did, because what they did was when Xavier's like, no, wait, that's not Angel. Like, they cut immediately to Esme leaving the mansion with the sisters, and she's like, haha, fuck all y'all. And I'm like, oh, wait, like, she wasn't even a suspect before now. Like, oh shit, you just gave it away. You could have waited one more page. Like, that page didn't seem, like, it felt misplaced. Like, why is this here? Where did that belong?
I've got some Esme thoughts in the Planet X arc, because I'm like, what? But they
played very close, and then they said it's something that made sure that it wasn't that. And
also,
I was like, well,
and
took
then
it a step further.
Like, her appearance in that is a little Judas Contract-y.
That's what I think. I think it was a bit of a. That's what I mean. Like, I think it was a bit of a commentary, because he even says it. Like, I guess we'll get it up. We'll get to it in a second, because they even make sure to say, like, a fucking child, like, shut up.
You're gone.
It kind of felt like a commentary, but yeah, we'll talk about Esme in a second.
I'm like, this can't be a mistake. I'm looking at this. I'm like, I am getting some flashbacks. But what do you? before I ask you, I just want to say that I thought Esme's cold attitude was pretty cool. Like even
I, I
even though like I'm not supposed to be rooting for her, she like was a baller in this scene. She's just like
mhm.
oh, so that's what you guys think? Okay, that's cool. I'm out.
I like her. I like Esme. I like the Cuckoos. But
Yeah.
I like Esme a lot. The same reason. She just took control of the situation, all her situations,
Yeah.
because she could. Why wouldn't I? I'm a fucking telepath.
And ironically, she got her revenge on Miss Frost, but what she just did here in this instance is a very Emma Frost thing to do.
Was
So
she was she in the special class? They weren't in the
no,
special class, were they?
no.
I wonder when she would have been
I
influenced then.
I was about to say they so much so weren't in the special class that they didn't mind using somebody from the special class to kill her. So Xavier restores Bishop and Sage's sanity, leading Sage to a revelation. Memories from the forest have returned. The person who confronted her in the shack was a tall male, at least 6'2", indicating that Esme had an accomplice. Taking this
Oh
in,
yeah.
Bishop finally asks the question that has been nagging him.
I dropped
Where
my
is
keyboard.
Scott Summers? Oh, where is Scott Summers? And where is your keyboard?
Where's fuck?
What do you think? Was that like anything for you? Like, was that supposed
I
to
hope it's
make
okay.
your
I,
brain be like Scott shooting Emma in the head?
I didn't even think like why would that even be a thing? I guess
Right.
that was just to establish the narrative that he could be a suspect. But like that was like okay. I mean, I guess where is Scott? He left.
Yeah.
He seemed angry.
I can also see like where's Scott and Jean's like, I don't know. Maybe you should. Maybe you
And
should
when
ask
you
Emma.
find him,
Right.
tell him that he gotta come get his shit from
No,
my room.
and also remember, this is when they're hurt. This is when you get all the other stuff. Tell his blind ass. That's when all the hurtful shit comes out, right? Tell his blonde daddy issues having ass to come through.
And
So
where's his son?
come here, Angel. Strong, independent women. Let's get it. So this starts the Assault on Weapons Plus arc with art by Chris Bacalao.
Bacalao is
Okay,
how I said it
Bacalao.
because I just I'm
Because you
Puerto
like
Rican. I
bacalao.
thought of the fish.
Yes,
Bacalao.
bacalao.
He's a longtime X-Men artist. He's got exaggerated features on his characters. You can kind of see Logan up on top of me right there. He's like very feral. And
I dug it. It just fit in a weird way. What his absolutely
yeah.
gnarly saber tooth, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about in a bit. I'm like, oh, I'm about that guy. It's got like
that's that's
braids.
kind that's kind of like some people feel weird about it because we were doing like you go from Frank Wiley and then Ethan Van Shiver and then you get Phil Jimenez and they do kind of not like realistic but like kind of realistic
Yeah,
art and then Bacalao comes and he's straight up he's doing comic book art and that's kind of like a breath of fresh air a little bit. Not that I had a problem. I love their other I fucking Phil Jimenez art, especially in some of these issues that we just passed. Fucking incredible. But in Ethan Van Shiver, the same. This creature next to me will
I
not
dig
leave
it.
me alone.
I dig it.
I put it down, dude. But
So, but no, like it's actually pretty ironic because their art almost speaks to what we talk about here about the X-Men in general. It could be all of it.
yeah,
It can be the realistic, and it could also be the ultra, stylized. Same way with these stories. This was a pretty this murder mystery was pretty by the book. This was Knives Out. This was pretty,
uh,
followed the trail. But the next story that we got is a bit more fantastical.
oh, it is. I wanted to say it's also funny too because when I read the manifesto, I read it. I didn't know I had it in my books. I have it in one of the fucking trade paperbacks, and when you have it in the trade paperback, it has
They
notes.
printed it.
They printed this
They
in the
printed the
back.
man saying that he wanted to change the status quo,
Yeah,
and then like fired him, like, or then he left or whatever. Like,
well, they
like
printed this. They printed this in about 2010. So
okay.
this is great. They printed this about 2010, so I would say about 7 years removed, and probably I don't think Bill Jemis was even president anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got little notes, and one of the notes made me laugh the most because I don't know if they were being like sarcastic or if they actually thought this, but they literally said, "Can't wait to see Frank quietly draw the whole thing."
Underline.
It's underlined. It is underlined. And so I'm laughing because I'm like, they know. There's no way they didn't know when they wrote that shit. He pitched this with Frank quietly. Can't wait to see Frank draw the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Go set up 6 fill-ins, please.
Yes, right. Oh boy.
Just before we move on, just talking about this Frank Quietly thing. I had watched a video about the performance of this book as it from the beginning
like
to
sales.
The end. Yeah. Okay. And so for the first 4 is so as it turns out, this was advertised heavily as Frank Quietly and Grant Morrison take over the X-Men. So it wasn't meant to be just Grant. Frank does the designs, he does the first 4 issues, and then Frank quietly's away. He comes back as he can. So like, because it takes, if you don't read comics, you might not know this. Frank Quietly, I think, is an incredible artist. His work takes a long time. A long time. Almost everything he works on ends up delayed. I swear, almost everything.
We ran into this as well with Gary Frank, correct?
Oh yeah. But I mean, and then you know how that turned out. That might not have been Gary Frank alone. Those delays on Doomsday Clock. I'm pretty sure some of that was editorial. But again, the Frank Quietly thing made me laugh because so they come on, they advertise him very heavily, and then he only does the first 4 issues. So of course, what happens after he fucking leaves? Fucking dips. It dips. There's a giant sales dip. And so actually, for it kind of did like an arc. It kind of dipped down. So around this section, after the what's the name of the arc where not this one. The one right before before Murder at the Mansion. That one we just did with Emma Frost and
it
but
is I don't have it.
That's kind of where the dip stops.
The riot at Xavier's or whatever.
There we go. That's kind of where the dip stops. And then at this point, we start kind of dipping back up. And of course, towards the end, people just came to see how Morrison would finish it. Like, we just want to see how this ends. And I thought that was interesting that Frank Quietly ends up affecting the sales so much just because he fucking Frank Quietly.
Yeah. I mean, you put a guy's name on the book, people expect a certain thing, you know? And then when all of a sudden, and we talk about it so often, there's been amazing stories that you get at the next issue and it's a different artist and it throws you completely off. Like, why does that person look like that? What's going on here? And art can affect the medium. I mean, this is one of the most artistic mediums there is. Without the art, you know, the stories don't sing, and some people nail it and some people are literally just there to pass the ball.
That's very true.
But we got to go to a gentleman's club. We got to see our man Scott.
Definitely are. What were they?
So this issue is a bit more style. So my recap is very short, but I think there's a lot to see here in this issue. But in our new Hellfire Club, a now swanky gentleman's club for wealthy mutants, Cyclops is trying to drown his sorrows, and this is like he's trying to drown his sorrows with a bottle of sparkling wine. This is the equivalent of like going to the bar and being like, let me get a White Claw. You know, like I'm feeling dangerous.
So he comes to this strip club and he asks for the Jean Grey or for the Black Queen. You know, like
or is that just a Hellfire staple? Because she was in the Hellfire Club, right? Or she was at least
Yeah, you know? But that's like, so why did he
like, is that a number 2? Can I get a number 2?
Hey, send that one over here. I just want to see something, because he actually has a Jean Grey or Black Queen, Goblin Queen dressed dressed stripper with him, and
Yeah.
she's like showing him titty and shit. And can you bring up pictures? Have I sent them to you? Because has to be seen. Some of this,
Let me
like,
see.
hey, Bacala was having a lot of fun. He essentially just drew Jean Grey. Like, he didn't
Yeah.
really make an effort to make the stripper different from Jean, which is the point. Scott was at this strip club to see his wife. Yeah, that's fucking.
That's what they call it, right?
It's a strip
Oh
club.
my god. Yeah,
But,
look, and yeah, she's in. This is Oh my god, I forgot about some of this art.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's very
Suggestive.
It's not even suggestive because it's straight up sexy. But it's just kind of not even a commentary, but like a parody on like what this outfit really looks like. Like, when they designed this, like, nobody stopped to think like she looks like a literal stripper.
Yeah.
Like, so now they have the outfit as an actual stripper outfit. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of metatextual thing there that doesn't usually require that much thought. But when you say it out loud, it's like, it takes longer and it feels like more significant than it is.
Yeah. Again, who is this for though? Who is this moment for? Who is it? What are they doing?
I mean, imagine like Grant, you figure it's still a boys' club at this time, and they're just having fun. And he's like, and then you draw her, Jean Grey, as a stripper, put her in the Goblin Queen outfit because it looks like a stripper's outfit anyway, like, and they just laugh.
Like the whore that she,
like, she's acting like a whore. Scott wants to see her be a whore. There's some shit there that can't be said in official capacity that you just kind of have to understand. And if you don't appreciate that, I understand why you don't, but I actually don't. I think it's funny. I have a problem with it.
I've put up in the middle of us now is just Jean.
Jean. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly
outfit. Doing the damn thing. But yeah, and are they trying to suggest that Scott is just not as like? Is this issue a reminder that no matter what Scott's going on through his head, he's still the Boy Scout. Like, he's still the goody two shoes. He's still.
This is the end of the Scott stuff. I feel like this is what it was all, character wise anyway. This is what it was all leading to for him. This moment that he has here when he's dealing with the weapon plus stuff. And we're kind of starting this off by just an extreme example of where he's at right now.
Yeah.
Because if somebody was going to read this by itself, then you would just know from these first few pages, he's really fucked up right now. And Logan's going to come be his bro. Hey, get the fucking strong shit. It's just an actual bottle of Jack Daniels. Like
I looked like, I remember I saw the panel and then I turned the page and then I was like, I wonder what silly name they came up with for the bottle. And I turned back and no, it's just Jack Daniels. Quite literally just the label for Jack Daniels. So I was like, all right. What do you think about Shaw kind of poking at him?
I like that this is kind of like Mutant Switzerland. There's no fighting here. It's kind of like, you run into the villains here. You keep that shit outside. This is where we get fucked. This is where we drink. This is where we act like we're with Jean Grey. Sorry, Scott. I
think you're the only one to have done this, Scott. I do this. I get the number 2 every Tuesday.
He didn't even question that they have like a stripper version of his wife at the strip club. He was just like, let me get that one.
Yeah.
Let me get that one. Yeah. It looks familiar.
Right? But he's not happy with any of this. He's not happy with the alcohol. He's not happy with the women. And Shaw's poking at him. But eventually Wolverine shows up with a serious drink like we were just talking about. Jack Daniels Tennessee whiskey.
Let's go.
I don't know why this happened, but Cyclops and Wolverine start matching each other shot for shot. And I'm like, one of these guys has a healing factor. I don't know if this is very smart.
The thing about healing factors, right? It's not like Flash or Superman's super metabolism, right?
No.
He's still gonna get fucking ruined. The thing is that the healing factor will allow him not to die from alcohol poisoning or to deal with hangovers.
It's got to deal with some sort of method of the toxins, right? Like it's got to like sort of dissipate any kind of like liver damage or sort of like
so he won't have to deal with the liver damage, right? He won't have to deal with the dehydration. Even though, like, how do you heal from dehydration? Like, does the body just produce water? Like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, the body has produced bones and shit for him, so I'm assuming that they can produce water.
I guess you're right. It's just, well, that's another thing. I don't know if he can grow. Can he grow back limbs? Oh, you have to put him back together. Like, how does that work?
He wouldn't regrow adamantium limbs.
I don't think he grows back limbs. We gotta see.
Deadpool
gotta see about that. Deadpool grows back limbs, and they take a long time.
Yeah.
How about Logan's healing factor?
Well, the idea would be that you couldn't chop him, right?
That's right.
Adamantium.
Yeah. I don't know if we've ever seen a version of him that's missing a limb.
Yeah.
I think about it.
Age of Apocalypse has missing a hand.
Is he? Oh, you're right.
Like I think
it's is it Cyclops? No, Cyclops is blind or something. I forget. I've actually never read Age of Apocalypse. Never read Age of Apocalypse. I just read through the information. I was like, oh, this sounds really fucking 90s. Speaking of that,
he literally has an entire hand cut off in Age of Apocalypse.
I was gonna say, we have the privilege of going and reading this in hindsight after lots of other X-Men reading. But could you imagine only having read 90s X-Men and Claremont X-Men, and then this happens? Like, these things happen on this book, these fucking insane changes. I don't know if I would have been a fan. Sometimes I've seen it happen with me before, where like I'm like I really enjoy something the way it is, and somebody comes and they're like, this is what it is now.
100%. Like, I mean, this is in many ways The Last Jedi,
right?
Someone saying this could be more. But for it to be more, I'm going to ruin things that people may like the superhero outfits, like the unbreakable Jean and Cyclops relationship.
Yeah.
These things and change fundamental parts of this. And I think in breaking the mold, you can end up making a bigger one after the fact. But it's growing pains. You have to kind of go with what's going on here.
Even the way they tell the stories, like the way this whole thing doesn't feel like. I can imagine people were like, this doesn't feel like X-Men anymore. This isn't X-Men. This is...
There's not a lot of team camaraderie moments. There's not a lot of like triple teaming a villain or any of that kind of stuff that's going on. And a lot of it can be, on the face of it, outright depressing. The stuff that's happened with Hank, this entire comic, all the stuff that happened with Genosha, Wolverine realizing that he's just a weapon made to kill, all this kind of stuff is really harrowing. There's no real like hurrah moments in this. They always just barely get out not unscathed, with scratches, burns, marks, and dead people. So like there's never like a hurrah moment in this arc, but it's the X-Men's persistence through all that's supposed to be the hurrah.
Yeah. I think the whole thing hinges on like Scott ends up being like the main guy, ultimately his journey from what happened to him in the previous arc, which, to be very honest, I'm not 100% on. Like, I'm like, he got possessed by Apocalypse for 5 minutes. And it was like, they got him out, but he's just been fucked up ever since. He's like, this doesn't happen to me. I don't know what to do about this.
Well, the interesting thing about it is one of his comments was that he looked back at his life and thought it was boring.
Oh, shit, that was a good one. I actually really like that. Did he say that now? Did he say that now when he was drunk?
It might be now, or it might be to Emma when they having their little therapy session. But he's like, I just looked back and I was like, I was boring. That's the scary part about all this, is how I'm realizing I was kind of a wet blanket. And to not be a wet blanket is to not be Scott. And if I'm not Scott, then who the hell is married to Jean?
Yeah.
kind of work. If I'm becoming someone different, am I still beholden to be? Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, right.
And Jean, No, Jean is just outside living her actual best life. I
Yeah,
am free.
I am the universe personified, and I'm just
I'm like
chilling.
a bird. I want to fly away.
Literally.
Jean,
And
Scott
he's
is fucking dying.
all those white
Gene,
claws, bro.
Gene, what's going on with Scott? This ain't about him right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at
Check
this.
this out.
Do you know? Do you know
Somebody
I
give me that.
can read?
I was saying, somebody give me that briefcase full of forks and spoons. Watch this. You want to see some
Watch this.
shit?
Watch this. There's a security guard 63 miles from here, and he's thinking about Emma Frost naked. Take that,
Yep.
bitch.
And now he's sterile.
Oh. I've just made every dick in a 10-mile radius flaccid. Play with me.
I mean, hey, we did orgasms in the first half of this comic when they gave everyone orgasms in mass. So there's not,
I'm pretty sure she can do that. I think they can make your dick flaccid. That's why Scott is even like, I respect him even more.
When he saw them both fighting, he was like, "No, one of these women is gonna cut off my penis."
He was like, I actually, this is the first boner I've had in months. Don't lock me out of here.
Yeah, open the door.
Me out of here.
Open the door. So, they discuss Cyclops' relationship with Jean, Emma, and even Wolverine himself. Then I love this because it's like one of those scenes in a movie where like you think they're the only two there, and the camera just slightly moves, and Phantom X is just sitting there the entire time, chilling out. So he's like, "Yeah, I got a mission. We're gonna go check out that whole Weapons Plus thing." And Wolverine is like, "Yeah, but I want Scott to come with us." And Scott's like, "Nah, I'm good." And he tries to leave, and he does the thing where you get up too quick when you've been drinking, and he falls hard, passes out on the club floor.
He said he wasn't drunk, and that threw me off because I didn't see the fucking green bubbles. There were green bubbles slowly forming around his head, like as he was saying this. And so at the end, right before he gets up, they're like all over him. So he's like, I did want to take before you move on. I did want to mention one moment with Sabretooth where he walks up on Scott because we're in this bar. Like we said, the villains don't really fight each other. And he's like laughing at him like, "Hey, what you drinking there? You little flimsy little drink." Even though he calls it gay in an inflammatory way. And then he goes to the bathroom with Logan and they're peeing next to each other. And he looks into Logan's thing like, "I just want to see what the fuck is all like. How do you measure up to me?" He's like measuring actual dicks. And so I'm like, what was Grant Morrison saying about Sabretooth in this moment where he had him use the word gay the way he did? And then the very next page, he goes to look at Logan's dick.
Right.
I was like, is he saying something?
How far away is he from the things he's accusing people of? If he has to go to that lengths to see if how he quote unquote measures up. What's going on there?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because it happened. It was like the very next page, so there's like no mistaking that they were.
No, and I'm glad that they didn't do a big old knockdown drag out with Wolverine and Sabretooth. But then again, they couldn't because of the club rules.
Yeah, those are the rules. Club rules.
Those are the rules. So, draining his last shot, Wolverine tells Phantom X that there is nobody he'd rather have in his corner than Scott Summers. I feel like there was a lot of affection coming from Wolverine to Scott in this, but I don't necessarily feel like there was a lot coming from Scott.
Well, that's kind of hurt people. And Logan has been around for so long that he don't take offense to none of it. He knows exactly what Scott's dealing with. Feels bad for him. He even knows in his head, I made out with Jean. we didn't bring that up, but I made out with Jean, and that's another thing we didn't bring up. Like, Jean is fucking flipping out on Scott for thinking about having sex with Emma Frost. She went up to Logan and made out. She was asking for Logan's adamantium dick. Like, he could have had sex with her in the forest if he wasn't Logan. Like, if he wasn't like, "Hey, sorry, Jeannie, we both know this isn't gonna work." Like.
Ironically, that's one of the biggest little arguments that people had for X-Men 97. Because
is
simultaneously they kissed in X-Men '97, but he was giving her grief for Madeline and
yeah,
their telepathic sort of affair, if you will. And
yeah.
that's even shadier because I love her because she's you. I love you so much that a piece of you I'm in love with. Just it's it just autonomous. It acts on its own.
But
But
yeah, I thought that. Yeah,
yeah, no, we're about to go to the world. In their covert exploration of the dome housing the artificial reality known as the world, Lou, an investigative reporter, and his mutant guide witnessed the arrival of a group of armed AIM soldiers intent on uncovering its secrets. Just as tensions rise, Phantom X, Cyclops, and Wolverine arrive on scene with similar objectives, only to find the AIM soldiers dead, except for one survivor. The survivor recounts a horrifying tale of a creature that slaughtered their team and now threatens everyone inside the dome, including Lou and his guide.
there was a bit, and I don't know if it was meant to be like anything serious, but there was a bit of a meta, I guess, context about this world and how it relates to comic characters.
About the time stuff, huh?
The time stuff and the way that like time just kind of stops when we close the page. Like they're sitting there until we come back from lunch, and like,
that's pretty meta.
Grant Morrison has spoken about how he really feels about these things. Like we gotta read Super Gods. We can somehow turn that into content because there's so much. There's not just about the things that he's worked on, but just his philosophy about what he writes and why he writes the way he writes. And essentially, he feels like he is a window to another universe. And these stories come to him from there. Like, it's not like I'm a vessel for what's happening over there. And it's kind of like that's kind of like what he's saying here. Like, it's not like it's anything serious. Again, it's one of those things that doesn't really require that much thought. But when you sit down and you actually think about it, you're like, oh, he's like talking about comic books, like the way they're given roles, and we created these perfect stories for you. Why would you ever break out from them? Or what happens when one character realizes that this is a story that was created for him and he tries to step out of it? That's a theme that comes.
And you get killed.
That's a very common theme in Grant Morrison books.
Animal Man, right?
Animal Man and Doom Patrol and this now X-Men and Superman Multiversity fucking Final Crisis is about the concept of the story. So like it's really funny to see the little Grant Morrisonism spout out under like the Marvel of it all. Like, hi, I'm still here.
Just a quick reminder of who you got on this book. Then because he's gonna have some things to say. So Phantom X identifies the threat as Weapon 15, a dangerous creation with a deadly reputation. Undeterred, the trio of mutants press forward into the depths of the world, guided by the survivors' accounts and their own determination to confront Weapon 15 and unravel the mysteries within the dome. Passing through a massive door leading deeper into the world, they brace themselves for what lies ahead, answers, and perhaps a fateful encounter with the fearsome Weapon 15. What do you think about all the glib Phantom X stuff? Like all the I'm not even French kind of stuff.
I liked it. I don't know what it's something about Phantom X. I really like Phantom X. He's like an enigma. There's nothing, you can't trust anything he says. In this very story, he will say one thing and then not a few bubbles later, he'll say something that completely contradicts everything he just said about himself. Hey, so tell me more about these AIM agents. What is that? And then the next page, he's like, AIM helmet, AIM suit. That's worth a lot on eBay. So he knows. So nothing he says, you can't trust Phantom X for shit. But it's a defense mechanism because of the world that he was created in. I like Phantom X, and I think I need to read X-Force. Yeah, the regular X-Force, the Rick, and then the Rick Remender one right after. Because the first X-Force run that crosses over with Cable and they do the Necrotia stuff, that's fucking good stuff. It just tackles with the concept that Scott is like, I need an X-Men kill squad. They're like, why would you do that? We need an X-Men kill squad. right. And Phantom X.
I'm tired of this school. I'm tired of like lunch breaks and recess. Let's get back in the field, kids.
Any story that respects the Grant Morrison continuity and tries to expand upon it is good with me, especially because it goes exactly against what editorial
Wanted at
wants.
the time, yeah,
Yeah.
and ultimately becomes ultra memorable
Yeah.
every time,
Yeah.
every time. So, um, did I? This was 144. As a wide-eyed Cyclops follows him through the time-frozen landscape of the world, Phantom X reveals the startling truth. While only months have passed for them since his escape from the transport train inside the dome, entire generations have lived and died. These generations, bioengineered hybrids of man and machine, are kept docile with narcotic nano-sentinel pollen,
Yeah.
keeping them drugged up, and fed lies that there is nothing beyond the world's walls, but impenetrable rock, keeping them close.
This is what we do to our comic characters. We feed them lies and make them believe that they exist in a real world. In reality, they're
Yeah,
little
and they
experiments.
like you said, and they start to exist the second we open the page, and
That's awesome.
all their lives start and stop at our convenience.
This
So
was there was
yeah,
actually I was gonna say this is I was just gonna compliment the art again.
yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't just the style, but there was something that they did in this arc where they wouldn't do like traditional paneling, so it would be like people walking through a scene, and then if you follow the way they walk, that's guiding your eyes through the way the bubbles are supposed to be read. And I just
Yeah.
think it's always so cool the way somebody could somebody could control your mind like
Oh
that.
yeah.
You know,
and
like
and and deal with the whole real estate of the page, right? Like
right?
using the entire page to get you to where you got to go. I've heard from so many early comic book readers that they're like, I don't even know, like, how do you read with all the pictures and stuff, and how do you read? And the best artists lead your eyes, lead your mind. That's why the page turn cliffhanger always works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your mind is, this blank page, and you turn the page, and boom, all of a sudden there's a revelation. What I love about comic reading is literally with these panels, they control pacing. This is a walk and talk scene. This is a walk and talk scene on any drama, any cop show, or any action movie. They're walking and talking, so you're just meant to kind of go through the adventures. And when things get loud and crazier, then we get more dynamic movement. Just beautiful, beautiful in the art. Boom, boom, boom. Guiding the two X-Men to his former residence, time suddenly. Oh, because he's from the world. He was born
Yeah.
in the world. Uh, they get confronted by a deadly car cop. I don't know exactly what that is.
It's a big ass brain thing. It kind of looks like Eva.
Yeah, it
EVA.
does.
It looked. I want to imagine they're similar in the
I
way
was
that
gonna say,
they
did that
work.
end up being a thing? Did they ever say what Eva stood for?
They never said what Eva stood for, but I hear Eva, and the only Eva I know is Evangelion, and it's
Oh
like
no, the only Eva I know is Eva
yeah.
from Wall-E.
Oh,
And
shit, I didn't even know.
she was a machine too. So
But this predates Wally though, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
By like 5 or 6 years or something like that.
yeah, man.
Uh,
Everyone's taken from Grant Morrison.
Dang, don't let him find out.
I'll join Marvel just to quit. So, guiding the two X-Men, did that already. Despite dispatching the cybernetic threat, they are soon overwhelmed by the formidable Weapon 15. Rather than finish them off, Weapon 15 contemplates a larger purpose and abruptly takes flight into the sky, soaring through the domed atmosphere of the world and into outer space. What I like about this weapon is that there's no humanity in him. Like when we see him, he looks just like a killer machine. And
Yeah.
this is what all the weapons were built to be, killer machines. But he has the crisis of sentience, right? Like he realizes that there's more than what has seen or what he thinks he's here on Earth for, and thus Icarus starts to fly towards the sun. He's just like, you know what? I kicked your asses, and now I'm just gonna take off for a bit.
He was going to
Uh,
test it because they had been told all their life that the world beyond the wall is just rock. So if he tries to break through it, he'll die. So he was like,
yeah,
fuck it. If I die, then I die.
yeah,
Like nothing. Space. And he ends up flying straight through the roof to a space station.
yeah.
And I was like, why did he go there? I didn't realize what was happening.
What did you think? What do you think of the whole Phantom X nervous system outside his body stuff?
It's another one of the weird mutations. Like, and I appreciate that they went out there with all the mutations that they introduced in this book, because you should be free to get creative as possible with the idea of mutants. They don't
Yeah.
all have to just have powers. What's your mutant power? My dick is long. Like, what the fuck? How come everything's so perfect for you? Like, this is great. He spit it up one time, and it turns out his nervous system exists outside his body. Like, and he had multiple nervous systems. He's one outside his body and his backup, just in case something happens to that one. That's wild as shit.
Wasn't there someone that you could rearrange their organs? I feel like someone had gotten shot once or something like that.
Like, the maker.
I just moved my stuff around.
The maker, Reed Richards. So if the maker can do it, then Reed Richards can do it. But he's missing a piece of his head, and it's like, what the fuck? And he's like, don't worry, I moved my brain.
As you do.
As you do. As one does. Like, why would you leave it there? It's just to get shot? Dumbass.
So, observing the light of Weapon 15 vanishing into the cosmos, Phantom X grasps the truth. The nerve center of Weapons Plus operation isn't on Earth but in orbit, aboard a space station. This realization explains why the elusive Weapon 15 is now speeding towards its destination beyond Earth's reach. So now we get to issue 145. After Weapon 15's swift ascent into orbit and arrival at the Weapons Plus space station, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Phantom X aboard Phantom X's living spacecraft Eva follow closely behind. Upon entering the station, they engage in a fierce battle to reach the control room, where they plant charges, intent on dismantling the entire operation. I just love that this whole space, like every we're in the villain's thing is like, just put bombs. Just walk around and plant bombs. It always, did you plant the charges? Yeah, I planted the charges.
If there's one thing I've learned from any freaking adventure like this one, is to bring the charges so that we can plant them.
Someone got to plant the charges.
Where did they come from? Where were you carrying these? Hammer space, baby. We're cartoon characters. They just hit you with that.
It's all in the bag. As the countdown begins, Wolverine decides to stay behind, driven by his need to uncover the hidden truths of his past, concealed within the Weapons Plus files. This is also like uncharted territory, right? But once they cross this lexicon, it's over, right? Like the mysteries of Wolverine. Like we're this is a moment.
They didn't fill it in though. See, I haven't looked. And I don't think Grant Morrison has ever fully revealed all the different ways that he was interfered with editorially. But there were some things that he did that he didn't fully do. He gave him the name James, never filled it.
And a redheaded woman, right?
Yeah, but he never calls him like James Howlett. Like that's not a Grant Morrison thing. Like Grant just gave him James, and he's Weapon 10, and it was very bare minimum stuff. Because we get to this point where Wolverine's supposed to be looking through his files, and it's supposed to fuck up his head. But from what I can remember, he doesn't get all his memories back until House of M.
Yeah, he doesn't. And also, what he finds out is he's just confirmed to be a killer. Like, and that he has false memories.
This has got to be another issue of editorial interference, but I don't know if that means that Grant wanted to fill out Wolverine's origin, or if he was like, I don't want nothing to do with this, and they're like, fucking, we're starting
put the seeds in because we're doing it over here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But there was definitely this whole arc, honestly. As much as I enjoyed it, and as much as it was weird, and as much as it was Morrison doing what he does, he doesn't really bring many things to a full conclusion here.
Yeah,
he's just like, Weapon 15, whatever. Scott. The most fleshed out thing is that Scott has a moment where he realizes he's been being like a bitch for like all this time. Like, you know, what does he say? What did he say? Like, what are you doing all this time, waiting for your moment? And then that moment he just walks out and he's like, "This is my moment." It's like
he was having issues. Wasn't he like having like issues or something like that? I'm starting to remember.
Oh, he was impotent.
Yeah, he was impotent.
His stick wasn't working because Grant Morrison can never fucking just do something normal. He can just be a normal fucking writer. He's got to give Cyclops a fucking
there was some
impotence.
I thought there was some fuckery going on there with that.
Oh, it's Whiskey Dick. Duh. It's Whiskey Dick. It didn't occur to me. He's dealing with
funny
Whiskey
though if he
Dick.
would have shot and it would have gone straight down.
Well, that's what, and the Deadpool movie kind of teased that they're doing a Whiskey Dick thing with Logan, where his claws won't come out. Yeah. So that's actually really funny. But that's another Grant Morrison thing. Scott's dick doesn't work. Like, go you fuck. That's been the fucking thing the whole run. Scott won't use his dick. Scott is having trouble trying to figure out where to put his dick. Now Scott's dick doesn't work.
And now no one wants Scott's dick because now Scott, because he's
Bro, this is excellent.
Yeah. But again, no pun intended.
Nothing gets completed. Even this arc, story arc.
There is no resolution to Weapon 15.
Nothing. We'll talk about it in a second. You're about to recap it.
Yes. So, meanwhile, Cyclops and Phantom X press deeper into the station, only to discover that Eva has been captured. Despite their efforts, they arrive too late to save the spacecraft, and it is destroyed, along with Phantom X's linked nervous system. With no other option, Cyclops carries the incapacitated Phantom X towards the shuttle bay for their escape. I don't know. I think something else that should kind of be said, and this is not even conversational, is the I don't even know how to say it. Phantom X can obviously be spelled Phantom X, but he spells it in a way that your mouth just says it the right way.
Phantom X. Phantom X. Phantom X.
Phantom X.
You know what? We killed Eva. But I wanted to say, like,
she's back later on, ain't she?
Because she didn't die, right? I guess that's the idea. She can't die, but I thought it was weird that she was talking out of nowhere. They did. It couldn't talk before. We spent a lot of time with Phantom X and Eva in a couple in the Charles Xavier story arc in the beginning of the book.
Then it becomes Skeet. It just having conversations.
With no explanation because Grant was like, "I'm out of here.
We don't got time. We're literally going to blow this entire arc up. We're going to shoot back to some unfinished business back on Earth."
The way that this doesn't get concluded makes me think that during this time is when he came to the decision that I am fucking done. I'm through with this.
I think it's a sharp turn from this arc to the next one.
Like, no, literally, there's no. I guess what. Let you finish this recap so I can talk about how there's no resolution.
Okay. Yep. In the control room, Wolverine confronts Weapon 15, a deadly and conflicted creation yearning for a different existence other than the one it was designed for. I'm just not. It's Weapon 15, Grant. Despite.
Do you think they forced some of this Captain America stuff on him too? Because
there's a little bit of that there.
I don't even think he ever outright says that until the art tells you in this moment that the very first weapon of the Weapon Plus program is the super soldier serum, Captain America. Like, he kind of hinted at it earlier on. And
they also said, like, 2, I think, is animals. Well, that Animal Planet, right? That whole animal.
You know, thinking of Grant Morrison as I know him as an artist, I can almost guarantee that he probably had some wild ass unusable ideas.
Yeah. And also, you know, it's almost like when they created the lupines, and then you start saying, well, this person's a lupine and that person's a lupine. Once you start saying, oh, there's a Weapons Plus program, then all of a sudden you're in a situation where you're like, okay, so who's in it? And I don't know if you get full reign to say, oh, by the way, it's Man-Thing and it's Luke Cage and it's, you know, it's all these other people.
Well, so we know Cap, we know Nuke, we know
Isaiah Bradley,
but he's Zero, right? He's Weapon Zero. Like somebody else comes in and puts that in. But Grant only gives us Cap, Nuke, Logan. I'm sure that the Weapon X story originally probably has some people in there that they can slot in, like Lady Deathstrike or something, and like she could be Weapon 9 or something. I don't fucking know.
Says weapon 3 is the skinless man.
All right, that's fucking weird.
But it says he developed a hatred of Phantom X, who he blamed for his current state or something like that. Weapon 2 is animals. It was implied by Grant Morrison. These animal weapons were the animal cyborgs in the comics We 3.
Oh, no fucking way. Shut up. No, he said that?
It was implied.
I love that book.
Yeah.
We 3, that makes sense.
Weapon 2 was later captured as part of a group of semi-animal characters, including Howard the Duck, Squirrel Girl, Beast, Rocket Raccoon. He appeared as a squirrel with Wolverine's adamantium skeletons, claws, intelligence, and healing factor.
What comedy book is this? This is why.
Although his claws made a snuck sound in comparison to the snicked.
This is why you should fill out all your concepts before they fucking leave.
Yeah. Weapon 4 is basically what ended up becoming Man-Thing.
Okay.
Weapon 5 looks to be symbiotes.
Is that's not
symbiote
right.
Soldiers, an ancient symbiote named Grendel. Project Rebirth 2.0 was created, and that's how they gave Flash Thompson Agent Venom.
Oh, well then. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
weapon 6 is Luke Cage.
Oh, fuck.
Weapon 7 helped create Cyber. Nuke.
Yeah,
Nuke is 7.
Nuke. He's such a caricature.
Terrible. You know, and this is all speaks to this. It's called Project Homegrown. Terrible. So that's Nuke.
Project Homegrown. Anybody else in here?
8 hasn't been fleshed out. It's experimented on criminals and psychopaths. They don't have a weapon 8. Weapon 9 was originally supposed to be Deadpool, but it is revealed later on to be Typhoid Mary.
So Deadpool isn't part of the Weapon Plus program?
He is afterwards. He's the improvement on Logan, if I'm not mistaken. So X is Logan, or 10.
He's 11.
11 is supposed to be Garrison Kane.
That sounds familiar. That's not. No, I'm thinking of John.
I think it's a Rob Liefeld creation, and it also says that at one point that Garrison Kane was confusingly called Weapon X, even though he was Weapon 11. Weapon 12 is Huntsman.
Okay.
Weapon 13 is Phantom X.
Phantom X. 14
is they're saying 14 is the Stepford Cuckoos, but that doesn't make any sense. The Stepford Cuckoos link to Weapon X has finally been addressed in Phoenix War Song. Did not read that. So I guess
that sounds new. What is that?
15 is Automaton, the one we were just talking about, the Super Sentinel sort of guy. Yeah. 16 is All God. I don't know what that's about. Weapon Infinity is Deathlock, and Weapon Minus is some person named Dr. Mind Bubble.
Don't they have Weapon H too? Like
of course. It was created by William Stryker, and it is a DNA of Hulk and Wolverine to create Weapon X.
Hulkverine.
And then, as everybody knows, Damage was a cat. No, yeah. So even when I just read that out, that wasn't all fleshed out. You know, so like I don't mind though when writers create a sandbox people can play in.
That's cool. But then I guess
you don't play in it, it's just sand.
Yeah. I guess you do get opportunity for something funny, like the little snuck creature.
So that's what it's all leading to, bro. It's all leading to snuck.
This is what it's all about.
But despite any semblance of empathy, Wolverine knows the station's destruction is inevitable. He now activates the explosive charges, triggering a chain reaction that obliterates the entire space station, including Weapon 15 and the sinister operations it harbors. And that is the end of issue 145.
Oh, fuck.
Look at
him. Fuck, he's a Muppet. He's a Muppet. Yeah. I can't get the... I wish I could fucking show you people this. But it's implied that the information drove him mad.
Yeah.
But then he's okay because Grant has no time to expand upon this. He's done. I'm out of
Right.
here.
And also
Actually,
the revelation, to explain his madness, you would have to explain the revelation, and they don't
yeah.
reveal anything.
He
So
never
why would he be crazy if we don't know what drove him crazy?
reading this, and I wish I could ask him. Maybe I'll ask him. I want to know what it was. I really would love to know what the final straw was because he feels like he wanted to do something with Logan.
Yeah.
Something, and he abandons it. And I feel like maybe they told him no, and he's like, "I'm out of here. Like, get the fuck out of here."
I'll put some sasong on your theory there, because he's kind of a background character until this second half.
Yeah,
And then he starts doing a lot more, to the point that he's integral in the ending of this story.
yeah.
And so you got to believe that they had something planned for his ass, but he just didn't get to do it.
He
That sucks.
literally looks at him. This is all right. This is what the fourth issue. Four
That
out of
is, yeah, that's the one. That's the last issue of the Assault on Weapon X. So we're about to get to Planet X
so
with Phil Jimenez.
here's the thing. He gets this starts his arc. He's got 4 issues to do this assault on Weapon Plus. He introduces all these concepts, all these new things, and then you know how he brings it all together. He ends it. Wolverine just looks at him and he goes, "What does he say?" He says the most out of character, batshit. Uh, Not do I look like a philosopher? That was a good moment. And then out of nowhere, because Weapon 15 walks in the room when Logan's looking at this and he's having a crisis, but they don't expand upon what the fuck the crisis is. But Weapon 15 is like, what's the meaning of life? Help. Help. I don't know what the fuck life means. I don't know what to do with myself. And
Yeah.
Logan looks, and first he's like, do I look like a philosopher, bub? And that's very in character. Okay, that makes sense. And,
Right.
and the fucking thing, Sublime told me my purpose is to kill millions of mutants, but I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I could have been a painter as well. And Logan looks at him and he goes, this is what I just found out about who I am and what I do. He says, well, let's see. Let's just say some of us were born to kill and raised to kill, and that's the only damn thing we're any good for. Everything else is just lies we tell ourselves. You're asking me about the purpose of life, you fucking genocide machine? It's
Oh
like
yeah,
this.
yeah. Boom. And then boom, kaboom. And
That's
you
the
just
resolution to this arc. The whole thing is ended. We're done.
did he not know that he was experimented on to become a killing machine? He knew that prior to the Weapons Plus program.
We all
He just
knew
found
that.
out that it was a bigger program than he thought it was.
I think he found out. The thing that he found out is that none of his memories are real, or that he can't trust his memories.
Yeah.
And so now he doesn't know anything but the fact that he's a killer.
And so he just blew the whole thing up.
And again, now it feels like we're rushing to conclusion. No, because the very next page, we're like, time to find out who Zorn is.
Like, yeah, and the very next story, and that was like, how do I say it? It wasn't no one was wondering who Zorn was, because that wasn't a mystery that they were trying to make us have. It felt like a rush of a revelation to a question that we necessarily didn't ask. Like, oh, by the way,
yeah,
the Zorn reveal.
I think he meant to start having us ask questions. I really do feel, because they kind of rushed through it with Dust. Like, I think the thing with Dust was meant to be a larger arc. Did he say something?
Oh my God. Now that you've said that, that whole thing went nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. She could only say one word. We got her from Afghanistan, and that went absolutely nowhere. But there is a pacing issue, because if Planet X came after Murder at the Mansion, you already have in your head that Esme's working with an accomplice. But then you have 4 issues of nothing being said about somebody else being a puppeteer in all this. It's quick that you could forget that there's somebody else supposedly out playing puppet master with this stuff.
But that's why I think. Well, that's why I mean I pretty much know. Like, just reading this, you can tell, knowing how we know how these things go, that there was meant to be those pages. There were meant to be pages where we get reminded that Esme is working with someone. I'm sure that we would have got her talking to some shadowy figure, and people would have started to ask the questions and then look back, and then maybe they wouldn't have been so caught off guard.
It does kind of come out of nowhere, and it doesn't come out of nowhere to somebody who had already planned it.
Yeah,
because in his mind, but as somebody reading it, it did. I will say that I my initial feelings of this arc that we're about to talk about were a lot harsher, but I think if you I think you can write it all off as drugs.
But that's what it was. Like that's essentially what it is. Like I mean, we're gonna talk about it in detail,
Yeah.
but the arc is that we find out, well, I guess we might as well say it. Zorn is
Yeah.
Magneto,
Yes.
and he always has been. And it's not
Mhm.
even a case of he was Zorn and he was like Magneto under a mask. Like no, all of it
There
was
was
a
never a
lie.
Zorn.
There
Zorn
was
did
never,
not exist prior to Magneto creating him.
even his
Holcroft.
philosophies. So like the reason why he was so preachy is because Magneto was putting on. Like
Yeah.
he didn't he's really trying to get across that I'm preachy and peaceful.
Yeah.
And
It's
it
ironic because
happened.
you go all the way to the Dark Phoenix film, right? Where he has that moment with Charles and he's like, it's always this, it's always a big speech. So you had to have known that he's like, oh, I know how to get in. I just start like philosophizing. That's all I gotta do. And write a letter to Professor X. Remember, because that whole that whole issue with it is just him is a story that he's telling Xavier about how he feels about mankind and all that kind of stuff. He's like, I know how to get to this guy. Watch this.
It's also funny going from reading it back to back, because I'm sure if you read it over months, it wasn't that big of a change. But going from that Muppet Wolverine to the ultra detailed, ultra realistic face of Charles Xavier, like
Yeah,
I was like, "Ooh, that was a breath of fresh air." I didn't know I needed that.
yeah.
Like, oh, wow. Okay, we're back. Uh,
So starting episode issue 146, the Planet X arc, and again the art is by Phil Jimenez. Just before the satellite's destruction, Cyclops manages to pilot his shuttle away, but the explosion causes them to lose control, leading to a crash landing in the Pacific. Back at the mansion, Xavier gathers his remaining X-Men for a rescue mission. Jean decides to use the new Mark III X-plane to fly into orbit and retrieve Wolverine, while Beast and Emma Frost head to the Pacific to rescue Cyclops and Phantom X. When you have a list, Pacific is very hard to say. I keep wanting to say specific. So, with much of the team dispatched, Zorn makes a surprising offer to Dust, triggering a panic in her that results in a loss of control over her powers, causing significant damage to Cerebra. Zorn swiftly contains Dust in a canister, much to Xavier's dismay. He's like, why do you put her in there? Meanwhile, as Beast and Emma Frost approach Cyclops' location in the Pacific, Emma detects a stray thought from their teammate warning of a traitor in their midst. Before they can address this threat, their plane is sabotaged, leading to an explosion that damages their aircraft. And the thing is, this is a classic comic book thing, but I love when this happens. Like when everything starts happening at the same time. It's like, wait, I think there's a... oh my God, Zorn is... And so like everyone's getting dispatched across everywhere. It's a comic trope, but I love it. It kind of reminds me of that first issue of Secret Invasion, where like towards the end everything just goes to shit. Like everyone's being revealed, everything
Reed
just
gets
all
turned
happening.
into paste.
Yeah, all happening super fast. Yeah.
It's just that's what, like I mentioned earlier, this Dust thing. She just runs in the room and we just take care of this thing right now. Professor X is like, hey, let me give you a little fleshing out for a second. And then they just do what they do. He kind of pops her.
He's like, I can get you a whole backstory if you want it. I can give you a whole origin story.
Even if you don't know what's coming, you can feel like, and this is my thing, like I had to put myself in the moment. I had to erase the fact that I knew it was Magneto and I had to remember what would I have been thinking at the time. And I think at the time the idea was that he would have been the mole. Yeah. Like you're thinking he's the mole. And so if you're thinking he's the mole, when he does this act and he walks in the room and he goes, Professor, look out. It looks like he just blew the bitch up. Like he looks like he popped her. I was like, they're making no attempts to like we're done with the bullshit. She's done. This is evil Zorn.
It ramped the hell up really, really, really quick. In orbit, Jean arrives at the remains of the Weapons Plus station and finds Wolverine standing over the deceased Weapon 15. It is Wolverine that Jean learns the truth about the asteroid at the heart of the space station. It's Asteroid M.
That did get me. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, oh shit. That's funny as hell. He was like, wait a minute.
Does that mean that Magneto was working in tandem with the U-Men and with the Weapons Plus people?
So I don't know how much of this.
Are we not supposed to be digging that deep?
Well, they do tie it together. If you're following along with us, hopefully you've read New X-Men already, because I'll reach towards the future for a second, 150 years, and so the whole run, Zorn was Magneto, and he was laying things, and he was, he was the cause for a lot of the problems that they were having the entire time. But Zorn wasn't even the one in control of himself. It was was supposedly Sublime. So Sublime would have been in charge of the Weapon Plus program, and if he had any access to Magneto, or he did, because Magneto was working with the Chinese government to create the fake
Zorn
identity
backstory.
for Zorn. And so they were working with Sublime because he wanted to buy mutants from them for parts.
Yes.
So there's your connection. Like, there was already a connection on purpose, but then there's also the later connection where you find out Sublime has been kind of puppet mastering the entire run, as like the whole thing, even this Magneto drug stuff we're about to get into.
Yeah. So back at the Institute, Zorn finally makes his move against Xavier, using his powers to undo the Nano Sentinels that fuse Xavier's spine together. That was jacked up.
That was fucking hilarious.
Leaving him paralyzed once more. As Xavier lies helpless, Zorn reveals his true identity. He is Magneto, and he declares that Xavier's dream is now over. What's ironic is when I was looking through a Reddit post about like the signs that Zorn was Magneto, one of them was like, every time they ask Zorn to heal somebody, he's like, I'd rather not. He's like, I can't really.
You're
maybe
right.
not him.
and the only time he actually did something was when it was Nano Sentinels.
Yeah, Nano Sentinels.
So I mean, like, again,
did he heal that bird?
He brought it back to life. Right? He had it in his hand, and he was like, he's the one who knocked it out in the first place.
Yeah, right.
Stay woke.
Yeah, right. Oh my
God. Great moment. Great art. Just that moment of Magneto just levitating the Zorn head next to him, like, fuck you, I've been here the whole time, and I've been influencing your kids. Like, did we not go into this classroom at all? Like, in the whole
when he gets there, he's like, Zorn, these posters are quite like propaganda. I don't know.
He's like, what the fuck,
bro?
Was Quentin Quire in the Quentin Quire was in a special class? No, right?
I feel like he manipulated the special class. I don't think he was in. I can't remember. No, I don't think, because he didn't go on the campfire trip. Or was that after the riot?
I think the campfire trip was after the riot. I think. But because I'm trying to remember, because there were so many connections between Quentin and Zorn, the kick, the attitude, the political ideology that he grows, and I feel like that was probably Zorn influenced.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right? I didn't even think of that until now. That's
you hang out with your bad influence uncle for too long, and now you start saying half the shit that he says.
That's like, I'm gonna dress just like Magneto. Give me that red and purple, baby.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like, who put that poster up?
Right.
What's going on there? You don't just put a poster of Hitler and it's like, oh, well, this is just for like educational purposes. We're just adorning the entire classroom in Nazi regalia, but this is for entertainment purposes. And I'm using your most impressionable students, like the ones no one wants to hang out with, the ones no one's trying to chill with. I'm hanging with them, and I'm telling them some like militant shit.
There's a lot of people that liked Zorn so much that this was the fucking worst for them. They hated that this happened. They hated this. They hated that there was no Zorn. Like, how could there be no Zorn? And a part of me understands, but a part of me also feels like that's on purpose. You're supposed to feel that way. The X-Men feel that way.
What's the ironic? Ernst the entire time is going, Go back to being Zorn. He's like, damn it, there was no Zorn. And he's like, Mr. Zorn, can you go? Can you stop being so mean? He's like, damn it, stop calling me that. I'm not Zorn.
What don't you understand? It was fake.
Yeah.
But that's part of that thinking is what leads Marvel to try to create a real Zorn with a haphazard, half put together, half baked retcon that doesn't satisfy anybody.
So are you saying that there's a real Zorn, or there was at one point a real Zorn?
No, there is now. As much as
Same stuff, the star in the head stuff.
All of it is real. All of it was made real immediately after this storyline. Immediately after Grant Morrison gets off the book, they made it so that Zorn is a real person. All of his backstory is real. Not only that, he has a twin brother who was acting like Zorn while he was acting like Magneto. It's so fucking confusing, George. But there is
I am quite confused.
There is in fact a Zorn, and this was not Magneto in canon. This is isn't
that the plot of Ricky Stenicki, whatever?
Yeah. So,
they made up somebody and then they ends up becoming real or whatever the fuck.
So reading this, right? I guess now reading Grant Morrison's time on X-Men as a complete story because he gave it an ending. He did give it an ending. Mm-hmm. In the context of his story as we read it by itself, that's Magneto. There's no question about it. Every hint in the fucking world it says it's Magneto, and it is Magneto. Magneto does all these things, and he does them because he was under the influence of drugs. And they say that multiple times. They call him a junkie. I don't want you fucking running the world, you fucking drug addict.
Yeah.
But in the overall lore, in overall Marvel history, if you want to absorb this as a piece of history, that is not Magneto. That is Zorn. That actually is Zorn.
So he's a drug addict.
Like Magneto.
So he's a drug addict.
So Zorn is the drug addict. So the Kick fucked Zorn up so much that he started acting like Magneto, so that the mutants would listen to him. And that.
So was Magneto killed in Genosha or no?
Magneto didn't die in Genosha. In fact, Magneto lived, and he still lives on Genosha. He would go on, like they would launch a book called Excalibur, starring Magneto and Professor X living on Genosha.
I thought the whole point of Excalibur was they were the British team.
They had them on in Genosha, and then Charles tells him about what happened in Manhattan, and Magneto is like, I was here the whole time. So,
but they bombed Genosha.
So here's what the official explanation is. Even though it was never put into a story, and even though it's never been in a canon context, it is canon because of the Marvel Handbook of 2005 involving the X-Men. In that handbook,
which is like right after this run.
Yeah, right after. So
we need to write some shit down.
In that handbook, the way they explained Magneto being alive again is that Scarlet Witch was already fucking with reality during the because House of M is coming in 2005, and House of M is another kind of attack on Grant Morrison's X-Men, in that the point of the book was to depopulate the fucking mutant kind after he spent the whole run giving mutant kind of culture, giving them a population boom. Fucking all these things.
Is it because of setting up the eventuality that they will overtake humanity? Does that now set a precedence to constantly have tragedy after tragedy after tragedy after tragedy?
Now we have to
population control.
Now we have to erase the mutant population so that the extinction thing doesn't exist. Right. So House of M, that's yet another fucking basically decanonizing at the shit Grant Morrison is doing.
To the point that at one point they just get some X-Men to join the Avengers, and they're like, just you can just hang out over there. We're not even giving a lot of light to the whole team. You can go hang out over there. So from his new headquarters atop a Manhattan skyscraper, and like I said again, I feel like a lot of this was a bit mustache twirly until it's revealed that he's on drugs, because Zorn was so cerebral. It felt like at least this whole plot felt incredibly well thought out. And then it gets to like, you will all obey me. Why aren't they obeying me? And I'm like, I thought you were smarter than this, bro. Like, what's going on here? But he's on drugs.
Yeah. So that was, I felt like they've done that a couple times in this run with Grant Morrison, where somebody's acting entirely out of context and in my mind, or out of character. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Grant Morrison's writing this really weird. And then it reveals like he was either, he was on drugs or with Xavier, it was mind control, or there's always a reason why, and I'm okay with that. Like, because I thought Magneto was a little weird too. I was like, okay, well, I know he had already, like we had already kind of established him as not heroic or whatever. Like he was still a villain at the time, but this felt a little weird. And they actually succeeded at destroying the city. Like, and it just it's another thing like Genosha where they just did it it happened already. We didn't even see it. It happened off panel. He destroyed he tricked the heroes of New York City into I forget what he called. He made phone calls and he tricked them into thinking something was happening somewhere else, and he picked up a shield around Manhattan and fucked it up and killed millions of people. So at this point, Marvel is like, how do we use Magneto again?
Yeah.
And they had editorial had no resurrection rule at the time. That made it even harder to bring him back. So that's why they do the stupid ass Zorn shit.
Right. Because you're right. He begins his campaign of destruction. He reshapes New York City into New Genosha. He gathers his latest brotherhood, assembled by his lieutenant Esme, who is giving me some major Tara vibes.
That's the whole thing, because one of the Basilisk even tells her, like, you gotta push up, Braun. What the hell are you doing? And it's very obvious that she's trying to impress Magneto. She wants to create the relationship that Slade and Tara have in the Judas contract. But Magneto is like, even high, even on drugs and under the influence of another person, he is like,
you're 12.
You're a child. So I felt like it was so similar to Judas contract that it was like a commentary on that. Like, like we're playing with that, but get the fuck out of here, weirdo.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that, because that could have been very strange if I was the only one who made that connection. But
was that little girl attractive?
To that young man. No. Who saw that? all of a sudden, a third window pops up and it's Grant Morrison. He's like, I never intended. I'm gonna interject real quick.
I actually thought I was drawing her like a 12-year-old schoolgirl. I'm not sure what.
No. This is she's trying to like seduce him. He's not buying any of it. But she also seemingly really buys his shit. She's really buying his whole message here.
But she was into the message of Magneto.
Yes.
Right. Like, I think before he was on the kick, but we don't know when he started doing the kick. That's the thing too. Like, when did he start doing kick?
Yeah, was he doing kick as Zorn, like behind the school with a special class? Like, pass this around.
With Quentin Quire and the gang. Hey, y'all smoking? We smoking.
Because Quentin used to get them behind the school or whatever the hell.
He used to get them from Esme. Oh shit!
Full circle. She was a kick pusher.
There it is. She was getting it. So she was getting it from Zorn.
Yeah.
So Zorn had the kick the entire time.
The hydrocortisone D.
He
was trying to give her the hydrocortisone D.
Oh no! They mentioned several times, like, we really got to figure out where this kick comes from. But they never figured it out. And they never even flat out said, oh, look, my camera died. They never even flat out said that it was it was Zorn. Like, we had to figure that out by putting it together right now.
Right.
But yeah, Zorn definitely, he must have been on drugs the whole time. So that means that he was influenced by Sublime the whole time.
Right. Which, like, the idea that Sublime is overarching in this entire story is pretty interesting. We've never seen somebody take it to this level here. He's quite literally puppeteering their greatest enemy against them. And humanity. I mean, I guess not humanity. Whatever the hell Cassandra Nova is committed those acts on Genosha. He has a humongous background of trauma twice over with both the Nazi camps and now this, and on drugs. So he's a bit erratic.
It's the drugs that really make it easier to swallow. I'll tell you that, because it feels like.
I also feel like that statement works in a lot of different ways.
Well, it's the drugs that'll make it easier to swallow, sweetheart. No, I didn't mean it like that.
Get here, Esme. Come over here, Esme.
No, stay away from Esme. God damn it. No, I wanted to say that. Fuck. Oh, well. So if he was influenced by Sublime the entire time. Oh, the drugs. Drugs will fuck up your judgment. So if he makes any out of character decisions, then you can throw it to the drugs. But here's the thing. I don't know that he ever. I don't know that he want that. Well, obviously you have to write a way to give it an out. Can you hear me? Is that good? Am I good or am I breaking?
No, you're 100%. Okay,
good. I know that Grant Morrison doesn't believe in the redemption of villains in the way
I've heard this as well.
Yeah, in the way that Marvel really does, and like at the core, they always want to give the villain some kind of redeeming qualities, if only for a capitalist reason, because they want to give the motherfucker a spin-off book. But
right.
Grant Morrison is like, he is a fucking terrorist. He killed millions. He's on drugs, so fucking what? He's on fucking. He killed millions of humans. Like, he's not even redeemable at all. He's a straight up villain. And
I got a question. I got a question about that though. Where does Emma then sit on all this?
There's a legend that he was given the idea to use Emma Frost from a fan in replacement of Colossus. Because right. we know that he wasn't originally meaning to use Colossus at all. But it's funny that he ends up using Emma because he has to give her a second power to make it work. So you figure like it could have been anybody else, but then at the same time, you kind of think of the way Marvel worked back then. And I imagine he got shoehorned into using Emma.
Right. But also like you would think that then, she would serve her purpose, whatever purpose he had Colossus do, but I don't think Colossus was meant to get in a romantic relationship with Cyclops, become the head mistress of, you understand? So it's so crazy where that ends up going, considering he was a substitute.
I don't know that, like, because I feel like when he thought of using Colossus, like, when he comes up with his little pitch, like, he doesn't have it all. It's not all done. Yeah. But because I mean, even the pitch, what was it, like, just the first arc?
Yeah, basically. The Genosha stuff.
So I imagine that once you realize you'll be using Emma Frost instead of Colossus, then you're like, okay, this is interesting. Like, right. What do we do from here? So that's what I think of the Emma Frost thing is. Like, we lucked out. We lucked out. We got Emma Frost because he needed Emma Frost. Because ultimately he probably didn't even want to. I don't know her story beyond the things that she did in the Hellfire Club, but I don't know that she was ever portrayed as the leader. It was Sebastian Shaw that was portrayed as that, right?
It's in this run that she was like, that entire time I was on drugs and I was an alcoholic. Yeah.
So I think that with someone like her, it's a lot less about redemption or whatever, because she wasn't even like, you could always put it on. Yeah. She was manipulated by a fucking evil man. Because evil men do that to women throughout all of history.
Especially X-Men women.
Especially X-Men women, always being taken advantage of by horrible, horrible dick havers. Mm-hmm. So I think Emma Frost we lucked out on, but again, I'm glad that we did. Because he added an entire new layer to this character. He made her important in a way that she probably never was before. She ends up being really prominent in not just Wolverine and the X-Men, but when you go on to X-Men 97, they were going to start an arc with her for next season. So she'll be right. She'll be in the public eye soon, and it will be because of what Grant Morrison did.
And she was also in First Class. And whatever weird cameo you want to say she did in Origins, because they didn't like to talk about that. Or whatever the heck.
They don't like to talk about that.
And so back with Magneto, demonstrating his power, he effortlessly tears apart fighter jets sent to attack them, a show of force to the mutant crowd below.
They don't care.
No, because
They don't care.
he goes and he takes some kick supplied by Esme to reinvigorate his formidable abilities. And so he hovers over the people. He unleashes his powers to dismantle iconic landmarks like the Brooklyn Bridge and the Statue of Liberty. The dramatic display of his might. As the mutant populace grows emboldened, rallying to exterminate humans, Magneto revels in his triumph. He taunts Xavier, held captive in a containment tank, gloating that sooner or later, even Xavier will acknowledge his righteousness. With a maniacal grin, Magneto makes it clear that his vision for mutant supremacy has begun, and nothing will stand in his way. That's the funniest thing, is like his enemies like in this fucking tank, and he's just like, bro, I'm telling you, you're gonna end up saying I was right.
So there's
crazy.
There's a couple questions I have. So at least it's funny because when they finally give them the group shot of Magneto and his new brotherhood, I had already been kind of thinking of them as a brotherhood. Oh, I didn't realize Esme was she has her thong out. Oh, that's crazy.
She's doing the leader.
Yeah, she does. Well, only one side, so it's like sliding off. Like if the pants is sliding off, like she's really trying to get Magneto to notice. But when they show off, the new Brotherhood, they showed Toad, and I thought, holy fucking shit, that motherfucker Toad always knew. He never thought Magneto was dead. When they were building the monuments of Magneto and Genosha all those months ago, he was doing it because Magneto was alive. That's what I thought. Hint. Yeah. I never thought of it that way when I read that originally. He was like, it's a monument. You're building a monument to my father? It's fucking dumb. I'm doing this shit because I'm sad. It was funny. It was a grief issue. And now looking back on it, it has a whole other layer to it.
And similarly, in reading this, it's quite obvious that the Brotherhood is not formidable.
Yeah, they're babies. He's high as shit.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's another layer to this, right? Where it's like, oh, he's on it because he's looking at this as this is his army. It's like Beak and Martha's brain in a jar, and Basilisk and Ernst, and he's like, these will be my kings and queens in the new Genosha. And I'm like, bro, I don't know. You need to get off that stuff. But he eventually ends up gathering his new brotherhood, and he addresses the chaos on the streets below. Toad reports that the followers are directionless. Like they don't know what to do, bro. Like you just yelled a bunch of shit and broke a bunch of shit. So like, what do you want them to do? And Magneto says, I will promise a new agenda soon. As he prepares to implement his plan to reverse Earth's magnetic poles, he assigns Esme the task of locating any surviving X-Men. Shockingly, Magneto assigns Beak to oversee the next day's mass execution of remaining baseline humans on the island, much to Beak's horror. So you can already kind of tell that Beak's not, buying what he's selling in this instance.
So I'm looking at this again, and Esme, it really feels like she's the one who introduced him to the Clique. But
I can see that.
She walks up on him with the drug, and she's like, they want you the way you used to be, or better. Clique can take you there. It's like that moment in like Degrassi or something. And it's like, drugs can help. And he's like, yes, the mutant power performance enhancer justice once more.
I have a confession to make. The very first time I ever smoked, it was because of a girl.
Oh yeah, same. She was already smoking, and I just acted like I was too. Like, hell yeah, I get high all the time.
Let me get that kick.
I didn't even know how. I was swallowing the smoke. I didn't know how to inhale it. I was eating it. I was like, I'm high too.
I still think like that was that and they always say the first time, right? So I was I could see myself kind of stuff. But yeah, it could peer pressure, bro. Even Magneto's not opposed to it, or not immune to it.
Yeah. Kids have all the greatest shit. Well, you know what? You never get a Grant Morrison. You never get a Grant Morrison run without somebody being on drugs.
You're right.
Someone is always going to be on some kind of drugs. Batman was on drugs. The X-Men on drugs. The fucking Animal Man on drugs. Everybody, the JLA, didn't they get on drugs? Weren't they were on drugs. It's funny because I
Well,
guess.
there's a certain subset of people who believe that certain drugs do unlock a different
Oh, I can
the
guarantee Grant
potential of
Morrison.
humanity, right? This idea. I was watching Steve-O say this, bro, on yesterday, as a matter of fact, where he was saying that like he thinks that PCP weakens the walls between us and another part of us, and potential of us. You know, I know he has to believe that as many times as he get hit in the head and the dick, but there's many people that believe that, you know, like remember that people talking about drinking absinthe, all kinds of
Yeah.
weird,
Uh,
antiquated ways that supposedly you tap
I'm
into another earthly realm.
I met well, I mean, obviously if you read Grant Morrison's work and if you read his interviews and if you read Super Gods, then you know for sure he's one of those people. But I
Yes.
met a few years ago, I went to a release party for a story called Punk Rock Jesus by Sean Gordon Murphy. You
Okay.
might know him as the White Knight guy, but back then he was not the White Knight
Oh,
guy.
yes, yes,
He
yes.
was
I was
he
like, "Where's
was
Gordon come from?" It's Sean Murphy. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh
yeah,
shit, that's right. He's Sean Murphy now, right? They don't even
yeah. He
call him
dropped the
Sean Gordon
Gordon.
Murphy.
He
Holy
dropped the
shit.
Gordon. Yeah.
He was Sean Gordon
Rebrand.
Murphy. He was
He
Sean Gordon Murphy
rebrand.
still, and he was known more for Punk Rock Jesus, and because he was a Scott Snyder collaborator. And so, funny story. Scott Snyder ignores my handshake, and I'm like, this keeps happening with people that I respect. And one day, I'm gonna slap one of the shit out of you. I'm gonna slap the shit
Yeah,
out of one
yeah,
of you
yeah.
motherfuckers. So,
Oh hell no.
anyway, beyond that, I'm waiting online to meet Sean Murphy at this signing, and it's my
Mhm.
turn, and we're talking about what was it he did with Grant? It's not the Invisibles, is it? Joe something. Fuck, I forgot the name of the book
I'll look it
now.
up.
I knew what it was back then. I knew I had it a lot fresher on my brain, and I even read it
Joe
once.
the Barbarian.
Joe the Barbarian. There we go. Sean Murphy and Grant Morrison. And we're talking about it, and he's laughing at me. And he goes, "Do you know why that book used to take so long to come out?" He says, "It's because Grant Morrison he didn't call him Grant Morrison, right? He's like, because Grant used to be high as fuck. He's filled out or whatever he's on, and he would send
Yeah.
me the layouts to do these pages, and they would always come late." And I was like, that sounds exactly how I imagined Grant Morrison. So
He's like
thank you
the
so
notes
much.
are all scribbled. There's some blood on it sometimes.
He's like, I'm pretty sure he sent me a seance by accident.
Yeah.
But that's always the funny story. Like I like Grant Morrison because he seems to be that kind of out there guy. Like that's exactly who you want writing comic books. Someone who believes this shit is happening. Someone who
Yeah.
respects it so much because he believes those are real people.
And
Like,
also and simultaneously the idea that like like this show almost strict conservative comic book stuff from the early like we had a form. We had a very specific form. We had a very specific color guide. We had a very specific tropes and arcs and archetypes. And if like I said, if you're just meant to dribble the ball until you're passing it to the next writer, it's very easy to play with, and stay within the status quo. But he was never intending that even when he started this book. That's what the
yeah,
manifesto's about, right? Just imagining it could be more. And I mean, maybe sometimes to get out of your own head, you have to get onto some kick.
it's
Uh,
good. I mean, I imagine he was on kick when he was writing this shit. You
so I already confessed on this podcast that it was a woman who got me on my who made me start smoking. And another confession would be a majority of the creative meetings that I had when I was running a certain backyard wrestling company were done under that influence, and I came up with some of the best ideas I ever did. To the point that we used to call it getting creative. We used to
uh,
say, "Yo, we got to get creative and then
it's
get in that bubble." And
it's the
literally,
old joke
you
about
bleed, you think of everything.
philosophers.
Yeah,
It's about philosophers and philosophy. Like the people who study philosophy are like well kept, like preppy, college educated, and then the actual philosophers are like addicted to drugs and
yeah,
fucking drunk, and they got
yeah.
fucked up lives, and their families are fucked up because it's the only way you can come to these conclusions. You don't think normally. You don't think like a normal person.
Yeah,
If you want,
it's the literal joke of you pass it and you ask a philosophical question, right?
because that's
Like,
what it
yes, we
is.
live, but why?
And it doesn't work that way for everybody, admittedly. So
No,
some
no,
people
no.
will smoke and they'll just go to sleep. But
Yeah,
for some of us, we ponder. We ponder
yeah.
the orb.
There are our entire body and mind work on a chemical balance. Whether or not we are maximizing that to our full potential, I don't know. But people have used all sorts of outside elements to change that chemistry.
Yeah.
And in doing so, and I'm talking about like even medicinal, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
people with ADHD or autistic, people who take medication that's supposed to, like, whether it's level them out or whatever. Like, we have already acknowledged that all of our thoughts and patterns and all that stuff is all chemistry. And so if you believe that there's more past what we are already experiencing, it would just point you to change that chemistry to figure it out. It's interesting. And a lot more thought I felt like was put into that than the whole kick thing. But I think he was on that. I think we would have gotten more.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still weird about the Sublime thing.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like
the pollen, the sentient.
I mean, not the concept, but
okay.
Back that
was a lot.
Because I already had accepted, like, all right, Magneto's acting like this because he's on drugs.
Yes.
And there was no hint of a third layer. They just kind of say it. Like, oh, this is what it was.
Right.
And I'm like, so we're meant to believe that Magneto's not only under the influence of drugs right now, but the drug the entire time was the mutant Sublime. Or the, I guess, I don't know what the fuck, the U-Man Sublime in his aerial form. So everybody who ever did kick and did something stupid in this book was actually under the influence of Sublime.
Yeah.
That really feels like he just came out of nowhere with that shit.
It's not even here. It's later, right? Like, when we finish this arc, you still know. I don't think when we finish this arc, we're led to that conclusion.
None at all. And this is pretty much the end of. This is the climax of everything he had done on X-Men. This story arc right here is the end of all of it. And there's no fucking hint that Sublime has anything to do with any of this. So that, I don't know if that was a casualty of what, him not wanting to do anymore, him just quitting and then signing with DC exclusively immediately after. But it's definitely a plot that I don't even know if I accept it. Like, it's so weird. It didn't give me enough to accept that. I already accepted Magneto on drugs. I went through a lot to accept that. You gonna add another thing after that is very weird.
The drugs were a sentient person driving the ship. But also, like, he is a completely, besides the destruction that he causes, he's like a completely impotent villain. Like, at one point his people don't mess with him. At one point the crowd doesn't mess with him. Esme walks away from him at one point. So I
suck.
Yeah. But we got to go to Asteroid M because Wolverine and Jean are trapped, unable to prevent this collision course with the sun. This feels like a bottle episode, reflecting on, like, when they're stuck in the elevator, reflecting on their predicament and recent revelations. They realize their time is running out. Jean's been doing this whole thing where she is talking to him telepathically because they don't want to waste oxygen. But she starts to kind of get fatigued. So rather than let Jean suffer a fiery death, Wolverine ends her life swiftly with his claws, intending for them to face their fate together. He releases Jean's body into space as they approach the sun's consuming light. So this is the first time he stabbed Jean, and the reason why I ask is because it kind of reminds me of Last Stand.
So, which came first?
I'm assuming this, because Last Stand was like 2006.
Oh shit! Is it? Why do I always think of Last Stand as 2003?
No,
God, damn.
It's literally 2006. X-Men United was 2003.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with this, and I thought it was So I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was actually I thought it was beautiful. He stabs her, which I didn't see coming. I was like, oh shit, that makes sense though. And he doesn't even let her go into space. Like, he takes her out and they both walk into the sun together. He was like, all right, you and me, Jeannie. And they died. died.
Yeah.
They fucking died together before Phoenix is like, all right, I've seen enough. we can go.
Just reverse everything.
We can go. Not even. She just brought Jean back, and Wolverine was like, I'm in pain, but I'm not dead yet. I'm fucking Wolverine.
Yeah.
His heals. And
yeah,
they
at one point he didn't have eyelids.
So did she take the melted? She took the melted space station and turned it into like a loose, globby spaceship back home. Right, that's what that
almost
was.
Almost like an X-wingy thing. It was like powered just by psychic energy. I think she said at one point. Yeah,
just by telekinesis. But it was such a beautiful moment between Logan and Jean, especially considering
the art,
what had happened.
Man, the fucking art is.
This is Phil Jimenez, right?
Yeah,
this is beautiful. But it kind of because they had that moment in the forest where he was like dismissive. Excuse me, he was dismissive of her, and then later on, when she's kind of flirting with him a little bit by looking into his dirty thoughts. And he knows that, but they still can't, they'll never be romantically linked like that. But they got to end their life together, which was weird. It's like more than
weirdly romantic. I was like weirdly romantic, but without like it's almost deeper than that.
It's deeper than that. It's like such a special, like I don't even know how to describe it, but that's their relationship to a T. Like I don't even know how to describe it. It's deeper than love, but they can never really be together until they finally do let loose in the future, and they decide.
And they could, and one could even assume they can only ever be together at the brink of Armageddon.
yeah.
Literally at in front of the fires of the sun. But yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful artwork, especially when Jean's eyes open at the end of that series, and then when they come back and she's like, is your hair back or whatever? Really, really, really powerful art there. But reveling in their dominance, Magneto and his Brotherhood oversee the final gathering of mutants on Manhattan, preparing them for extermination. As debates over the proceedings ensue, Magneto's fury leads him to banish Beak for his disloyalty, and in a fit of rage and sparked by Basilisk's jokes, he kills him.
Yo,
he gives him like a stroke or something, right? What did he do?
He just broke his neck. He just killed him. He's just like. There's a couple, like one. I don't know what they're trying to say about Magneto and Xavier by him having Xavier there naked and like shit. for no reason, just for no there was no reason for him to be nude. He just wanted him to be. Also, Xavier has a micro dick. Canon confirmed. That's wild. Why did we do that? Why did we confirm Charles Xavier has a little dick?
Is there some atrophy when you can't walk, when you're paralyzed from the waist down?
I don't know.
Does that cause any sort of muscle deterioration?
I always imagined that they just gave, I don't know.
Get out of my head, Gene. Stop looking at my micro penis.
Oh no. I looked in Magneto's head for something and I saw an image of Charles. I don't really want to talk about it.
No. Now I'm thinking about them in the raging waters.
But Basilisk was annoying. He really was annoying.
He was like a dumb jock. Like he was saying all the inappropriate things at all the inappropriate times, and none of them were really funny. But he was cracking the hell up off of everything. He's the one that's constantly turning Ernst like, "Yo, that's not," because she's still calling him Zorn. And she's like, "Yo, come on, man."
I did feel bad though. I was like, "Oh no, like he's just a big dumbass." Yeah. He's just a dummy.
And they're still children. Like that's the biggest thing that they're trying to impose here. That they're still children. Beak is terrified, about everything that is to happen. And
you mentioned Beak, and he's trying to give Magneto this speech about how everything can feel pain. He's like, a carrot can feel pain. He's like, all right,
he's maybe. Like a vegetable. He goes, he's like, if a fruit like a carrot can feel pain, and Magneto's like, it's a vegetable. And
he slapped the shit out of him.
Just on the correction of fruit and vegetable. That was it. That was like he was like listening, and then he said fruit and carrot, and something snapped in his kick-driven mind, and it made him assault a child.
Yes, I just had to bring that.
I will hit this child.
Also, poor Beak. I really thought he was gonna have his "I'm flying" moment. They're assholes for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm flying. And he's actually just falling. He's not flying at all. He's just dumb.
No, and he's fallen several times in this, but he falls and it's looking dire, and he almost gets jumped, and then he's rescued from a beating by a mutant gang beating from a mutant gang by Phantom X's spaceship Eva. She
They're
shows back up.
funny. They're funny for because he falls into Mutant Town, and
Yeah.
then like the inking changes a little bit, and it looks like we're like mimicking the style of Bill Sienkiewicz and Leon. I forgot his last name from the Zorn issue where he's in Mutant Town, healing
Yes, yes,
people
yes.
and shit. Which I mean, looking back, knowing it's I mean, I guess we always knew it was Magneto. I never really thought that doesn't really feel out of character. It's just Magneto walking around being like, "Look at this. This is the way we're supposed to be."
And he's like, damn, that kid died. That big ass roach kid. He got his ass flamed up.
That's
He got his
fucked
ass
up.
flamed.
That's the kind of thing that makes sure that he comes back to New York to do what he does. Like
Yeah.
things, having to witness things like that.
Yeah.
I don't hate Zorn as Magneto. I don't know if I said that. I don't hate it.
I don't necessarily hate it. I just wish there would have been more there. Because like I said again, it seems like an incredibly intelligent and insidious plan, but I don't ever feel like it reaches a like because even now he doesn't know what he wants to do. Like he
Yeah.
knows he wants New Genosha, and then he just suddenly like, I guess we're gonna kill all the humans, and he's like figuring out as it goes, which again would happen if you're on drugs. But I wish there would have been more of like, I almost started to believe it. I almost started to
Yeah.
this whole pacifist stuff, like, or the complete opposite. You know how filthy I felt saying all that stuff to you guys and wearing this stupid jacket and hanging out in this stupid mansion. But we never get any kind of reflection of his time as Zorn, except for the stuff he tells Xavier when he immediately, re-handicaps him.
There's a very big switch to where it doesn't feel connected. Like it doesn't feel
Even
like
with the
Magneto.
breadcrumb, right? Even
Yeah.
with the breadcrumb, because he's not acknowledging it. He's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm Magneto. Like,
The,
hello.
the drugs of it all, and again, this feels like a way to pacify editorial. Like,
Hmm.
I have to make it so that it wasn't really him.
Yeah.
But because it kind of takes away from what he's doing, like you said, it takes away from his plan. Like, why was he Zorn?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that ever got answered beyond Bob just doing it
Hey,
because I
see,
am
you can't,
just
you
doing
can't,
it.
you can't do this because again, he's Zorn. If his whole plan is to make sure that Charles is incapacitated, so he could either take over the school or the world, he's the one who healed Charles so he could walk.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm putting the shovel
missing
down. I'm not digging anymore.
it's missing a lot of pieces,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And that's just the result of how it fell out between them. And that
This
fucking
is the Rock saying that he was always planning to give it
Yeah.
to Cody, give it back to Cody, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not quite linking up. So meanwhile, at his headquarters, Magneto confronts Esme, putting an end to her aspirations and extinguishing any hopes she had of ruling alongside him. I think this is when he calls her a child, like a silly child or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she is over it. She's like, all right, then fuck that. Alone after her departure, Magneto is startled by a voice in his head claiming to be his conscience, a presence he attempted to silence. Suspicious, Magneto checks on Xavier. He's like, you mother, are you doing this shit? But no, Xavier is still in his containment tank. But inside that tank, Xavier is contacted by a voice and familiar images. So mentally, he reaches out and says, is this Jean? Bum, bum, bum. And
Here we go.
To conclude this arc, in a dramatic turn of events, Jean Grey, now empowered by the Phoenix Force, saves herself and Wolverine from the sun's gravity well, returning them safely to Earth. There, they rescue Beast and Emma, who have been stranded on the remnants of the X-Plane in the Pacific for days. One of my favorite panels is, I think Beast going like, well, wait, what the hell is that? And he goes, What else could it be? It's Jean Grey showing off. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you gonna be a little sour, Emma. You see, that wasn't that long ago. You're gonna be a little sour. Um, Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Magneto struggles to maintain control over his fracturing Brotherhood until Beak, Phantom X, and Cyclops arrive to challenge him. I guess I jumped over the part where Beak goes to the school and just basically tells everybody what's what. And there's a pretty cool moment where Cyclops is like, well, I don't have a team, so all of you are my child soldiers, and we're gonna go kill Magneto. And I think someone says, right? Is it Phantom X or somebody that's like, with the kids? Like, this is your backup or whatever?
Yeah, I think I'm looking now. I kind of lost the page. I scrolled past it. Oh
Yeah.
shit. That was in the last issue. That's why. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. He kind of says, "I hope you all paid attention to class because this is going to be one hell of a test." So
Yeah.
you intend to lead a children's crusade?
Yes, yes. I'll be in the back and send wave after wave of child mutants.
Said, "Fuck it, let's do
Yes.
it."
Working together. That line always makes me laugh. That's from Futurama, where they Zap Brannigan, his army was fighting a army called Killbots, and they asked you, how did you beat them? He goes, I just sent wave after wave of my own men until they got exhausted. I could totally see somebody just offering all these children up as the first line of defense. Poor Esme. So working together, they free Professor Xavier and manage to wound Magneto, disrupting his power. Faced with disloyalty from his own lieutenants, Magneto retaliates and kills Esme, fueling further animosity. What did he do? He took her earrings off and
put them in
stabbed her brain?
I think he took her earrings off and stabbed her with them.
Okay, that's what I thought happened. I just wanted to get clarification.
That's how I took it.
Yeah. Despite Magneto's resilience, Beast, Phoenix, and Wolverine join the fray, supported by Magneto's delusioned followers who turn against him. So now he's just getting his ass whipped by everybody.
Cyclops blowing up his helmet with.
Oh my! That was such a metal ass moment where he's like, "Oh, this block telepathy." Bam! Just shoots him in the face, full bore. Supposed to be concussive, but I think he got some burns there.
But he also destroyed. He it, like you said, it looked like an explosion. Like they misunderstood the power, but
yeah,
we'll see.
And then this is the only part that felt a little bit kind of off and weird because he's like dying, and then like Phoenix goes to like taunt him, and so he grabs her hand and he says something like villainous. But ultimately, what he ends up doing is sending like an extra electromagnetic pulse that creates a stroke.
It's he says it was a stroke. Like he in like a telekinetic stroke, like you said, an electromagnetic,
yeah,
planetary scale stroke.
Right.
So.
Just felt a little sucky because all he did was grab her hand.
Like, I did. I know we're getting to the end here, but there was a moment with Esme and Emma that I thought we should highlight because one, I don't want to question to how even Esme should be. She should be dead already, but this is just really painful. Emma she's a diamond, so she steals emotions right now, and she kind of picks her up, and she's like, look at you though, you ended up being so good. Like this is exactly what I would have thought you would have been. And she says she's proud of her, and she actually
puts her out of her misery, right?
No, she dies anyway. She tells her, I'm nothing like you, and she's like, I know, I'm most especially proud of you. And she kisses her on the forehead, and she's in her diamond form, but she still cries.
Yeah.
She still cries. She cries fully, emotionally, and all the tears come all the way out. So she cared as much as she was trying not to.
all of her emotions broke through the dam that the crystal form is supposed to represent, right?
Yep.
Again, another layer of redemption, another layer to color this character as a bit more nuanced than just mustache twirling. So Oh, as Jean begins to die, Magneto, overwhelmed with despair, asks for an end to it all. Wolverine is in full berserker mode. I wonder if Cyclops like picked up on that. It's like your girl gets stabbed and somebody else like completely flips out a lot, kind of more than you do.
I
Like,
think by this point, that
he
like after
knows.
so many years, they are all completely aware of their situation. Like there's
Yeah,
no hidden back and forth there. They all know. He knows. I know he loves Jean, but we all know she loves me, and I know she's complicated about him. But it is
yeah,
what it is. So I think that's why they had like that brotherly relationship here
right.
because of shit like that. So when Scott sees Logan cut off Magneto's head because he's berserking over Jean, he's not even thinking twice. He's run over Jean.
Because
Wolverine,
Beast tried to stop, right?
he does
Stop them.
stop him. He does hold him.
Okay.
Wolverine is complete berserker mode. He's feral. He's screaming. He's not like as a person. And then Scott, he has Jean in his hands, and she tells him, I haven't seen you alive for such a long time. You
Right.
know, my best friend. And then
Yeah,
he's
that
like,
was sweet.
she just says, "Live," because all I ever did was die on you, and she does.
That also, I was like, damn.
Like, damn, that's fucked. How you gonna leave
Not,
me with that?
yeah.
And she does. She dies. She goes to the. She dies in the way that Phoenix dies. She doesn't
She
die like a normal
she
person.
merges back with the
Yeah,
Phoenix
with the
Force. Her spirit
with
does.
yeah. She goes to the white room, the big white
Mhm.
room, the crown or
Is
whatever.
that something established through him, or is that something? Because they kept referencing it like it was
I meant
a
to.
staple.
I meant to make sure that was something in my fucking notes to make sure I
Hey,
do
looked up.
research on, and I never got around to doing it. The white hot room is definitely a Grant Morrison, but it wasn't. So it was created. It was
Ooh.
created by Chris Claremont, right? But
Yes, it
expanded upon by
was.
Grant Morrison.
The sorry, because it's interesting how it's worded here. The creators are listed as Chris Claremont, John Bolton, and Grant Morrison. The first appearance of it was in Classic X-Men number 8 in January of 1987. The White Hot Room is a realm that serves as both the afterlife and a base of operations for the Phoenix and its hosts. It simultaneously exists within the Macron crystal, a nexus of all realities, which is something we'll end up seeing later on in the future.
Yeah.
Um, that makes a lot more sense. She kept referring to it. And I was just like, I feel like I'm supposed to know this, and I don't necessarily.
But
But this goes
it
all the
also
way back to the
felt
Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, it felt like one of those Grant Morrison as like I like now I know it's Chris Claremont, but when they put Grant Morrison's name on this, I imagine he's the one who gave it depth and meaning, kind of made it a thing beyond just that white place where the Phoenix was talking to Jean from.
Yeah. It also says that at one point in House of M, Psylocke and Rachel Summers were stuck there for some reason. So that's interesting. But it's also interesting as someone that's what I love about Grant Morrison. He's already put his foot down that he will redefine the X-Men, but he cares so much. That one of the things we were talking about in the manifesto, one of the first things that screamed out to me is his outwardly and obvious respect for what Chris Claremont did for the X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah.
So usually when people are like, I'm here to blaze a new trail, and they ignore everything in the past. No, he uses the past to build on to the future, which shows how much reverence he has um, for Claremont in general. And so that sort of ends the sane parts of this
Yeah.
story.
That's basically the end of the thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna go through the next couple of issues. Let me know if any of what I've gotten is wrong, because I think that a lot of this, I don't know if a lot of this is what actually happened, but
It's
go ahead.
I wanted to say too, like as much as we basically end, like Grant Morrison's official story ends with like the death of the Phoenix and
Yes.
or the death of Jean Grey. But there's that thing that we talked about or we talk about all the time where I think it was him who said when you're on a run, on a long form run, you should probably always give your story an ending.
Yes.
And he always goes to the future and does that little, like, even though these are ongoing characters, this is my way that it ends. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I was surprised that even though he was leaving, he was still like, okay, well, I'm still fucking putting this shit in there.
Also, the huge time jump made me think of House and Powers of X. You know how
Yeah.
Hickman would go on and use the same sort of tools and try to map out. You know, usually people are like they'll map out
Yeah.
like 5 years or whatever, but he's like mapping out like 500 years of what this could be, and ultimately, like, and you can argue, oh well, they changed this, they changed that, thus they changed the future. But he laid out what the future vision should be.
I wish we could have gotten into it. Maybe we will someday, but there's so much of Jonathan Hickman's run on X-Men that connects directly to Grant Morrison. Like, I don't even think there's a freaking issue. There's a Jean and Emma Frost issue that is like a direct mirror to the issue where they were in Professor X's brain together. Like,
The silent one.
yeah, it's awesome. I think Greg just wrote me like, why is there an issue full of emojis?
And Emma Frost is getting spit on or whatever the hell was going on.
Yeah. But I'll let you try to summarize this arc for us because I grasped it, even though it's kind of weird.
I grasped like the outskirts because the even though our story ends, the ending of that story is 150 years later. Two explorers discover a phoenix egg in the blue area of the moon. So it's like boom, boom, boom. What does this mean? So we start with issue 151. This is Here Comes Tomorrow. These next 4 issues will be the end of the series, and it's obviously written by Grant Morrison, but it's illustrated by Mark Silvestri. Huge X-Men artist, but also one of the founders of Image. So 150 years after Jean Grey Summers' death, Tom Skylark arrives at the former Xavier Institute with his Sentinel pet rover, carrying the phoenix egg they acquired. They encounter genetic creations called crawlers, guardians of the ruins, but are guided by Eva to the new institute built in Manhattan's remnants. Eva,
150 years in the future, who's taken over Phantom X's body, so she's like a trans Eva thing.
Yes.
Male and a female. Keep that in mind.
I was getting Jocasta vibes. Is it Jocasta?
Kind of, but like she's only got a body because she took Phantom X's real body. It's weird. So some undisclosed thing happened to him.
Very strange. However, a hidden crawler within Rover, spliced with Multiple Man's genes, begins to replicate uncontrollably. Despite their efforts, Eva and Tom fail to prevent the crawlers from stealing the Phoenix egg and delivering it to their master, the Beast. So obviously, while this is going on in the future, there's so many different Easter or Phoenix eggs littered through here that connect to what we just read. You know, like, oh, why are they saying Beast? Why is Eva here? Stuff like that. Elsewhere, the 3-in-1, formerly the Stepford Cuckoos, welcome Logan, who is embraced by the Institute's headmistress, Cassandra Nova Xavier. She reveals to Logan that the universe is fractured and they are among the few left to repair it. What I dig about this is you have the 3-in-1 now. It was the 5-in-1 when it started, but then Sophie and Esme died. With the 3-in-1, you get a very what do they call those in the Greek mythology? Is it the Fates?
Yeah. Oh shit! My microphone's off.
No, you're good. I hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, I can't hear myself. There we go. It is the 3 Fates. It's like, Hercules and many different stories.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
just the visual of it.
Xavier is Jesus. There's a statue of Xavier, and at one point it cries tears, like
of blood
statues do. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh god. In a flashback 150 years earlier, Emma Frost finds Scott Summers at Jean's grave, urging him to find purpose in reopening the school. But Scott, weary of perpetual conflict and loss, and again, that right there, weary of perpetual conflict and loss, that is the existence of Scott Summers. Living in constant conflict and constant loss, and choosing to still fight the good fight. But in this instance, we can see that he's been broken by everything that's going on. So he declares he has no desire to inherit a broken world. He decides to leave, rejecting any future tie to the ongoing struggles of mankind, and that issue ends. Issue 152, in the Institute, Tom Skylark somberly recounts how the proud people entrusted him with the Phoenix Egg, just before they succumb to the onslaught of the Beast. Apollyon, and crawlers. He expresses regret over losing the egg, for which they have sacrificed their lives. Shortly after, Cassandra Nova assembles her team, and they embark on their X-plane, determined to retrieve the Phoenix egg from the Beast's fortress before he can exploit his power. Meanwhile, at his island stronghold in Trans-Atlantis, the Beast proceeds with the eggs hatching, resulting in the emergence of a woman who exudes and is immune to flames. Confused and disoriented, she addresses the Beast as Hank, but he insists that he goes by another name now, Sublime, and he urges her to call him as such.
I was like, what the fuck?
What were your spider senses saying when they said it was Beast and you saw that it was Beast?
I just thought he because eventually he does kind of go dark in real in canon, and I just thought he did. I believed it. That's how beast he is.
I mean, I now that you say that, I wonder how much of this was that.
Yeah,
like how much of like, oh, Beast is scary. Like Beast as a eugenicist who's like picking apart DNA and making crazy experiments. They've always liked to play with that very thin line between curiosity and morality, I guess you would say, because it's like, I want to see what makes this animal tick, so to do so I have to cut it open, right? And I have to play around with its organs. How does an animal live with one leg? How does an animal live with one eye? Do things change? Do its instincts change? And to do all that kind of stuff is horrifying in a lot of ways. So I think Beast does work as a villain, but I just wasn't buying that it was 100% Hank, and now we know it wasn't. It was Sublime.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't even. This is like the way they laid down the information on you during this arc made it confusing to read. But that's like what he does. Like that's a key thing that he does, and I'm surprised. A lot of people didn't think the X-Men run was straightforward. And I thought this was one of the more straightforward Grant Morrison stories I've ever read.
Yeah, man. Get into Grant Morrison Batman, bro. That stuff can get pretty freaking wonky. And with this, there's a point, John. I'm writing my notes and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And then like there's like a page and a half of Logan just exposition. Yeah, oh yeah, Jeannie, like, let me tell you what went down. I'm like, and I was like, thank God. Someone tell me what went down.
I think the idea is that we're supposed to be like Jean. We're supposed to feel like Jean feels, and there's a lot of that.
Call Beast Hank, right? Because that's what we see.
Like that's Beast. It's Hank, and he's like, yeah, sure, some time ago.
I haven't been called that name in many a millennia. So in Pan-Africa, Phoenix successfully completes her mission to eradicate the termite insectoids, but discovers Bumbleboy, a mutant ambassador to the termite multitude, who once belonged to a group called the X-Men. When she questioned, I thought this was like a Brood thing. When they first showed them, I'm like, is this Brood? What's going on here? But termites, it's all kind of there. When she questions the Beast about this revelation, he dismisses it, insisting that the X-Men are their adversaries who must be neutralized before they grow too powerful and resistant. Meanwhile, a new type of crawler engineered by the Beast, infused with feeder genes capable of telepathic infestation, infiltrates the Institute, sowing discord amongst its residents. Simultaneously in the Atlantic Ocean, the 7 X-Men encounter Transatlantic Initial Defense, a whaling ship manned by crawlers. Despite a surprise attack, they manage to seize the vessel, although Rover sustains severe damage and plunges into the ocean during the chaos. This was a sad moment.
So sad, bro. I was so sad. I was sad for Rover the whole time. Like, bro, leave Eva alone, you fucking whore. Like, get out of here. Like, I kind
of now want like a decommissioned Sentinel to be on the team. Right? like a reprogrammed big ass Sentinel.
Somebody's got to bring this Tom dude into canon with his
Skylark.
Sentinel. Tom Skylark. I'd never heard of him. I think he's a completely original character, right?
Just a boy. I never heard of him before. Just a boy and his robot.
I thought that was really cool. Actually, I enjoyed him, and I thought I thought the relationship with Eva was interesting. I was like, okay, this is
I think
really
they need
weird.
to so they've had a longer pass. One could assume.
I think they just met. I think he's just like, hey, I want to hit
I'm looking through right now. Nope, he's only in those 4 issues apparently.
it. Yeah, somebody will bring it back.
Yeah,
It's up to you,
Eva. So it's up to you. uh, their brief triumph is overshadowed by as numerous heavy. Oh, let me make sure I'm right. I'm in the right place. Yep. Their brief triumph is overshadowed as numerous heavily armed ships filled with airborne crawlers approach their position. Yet the gravest threat materializes in the form of Phoenix, prompting an immediate challenge from Logan. I want to save that page. I meant to save that page where he's like, yeah, you know that whole plan we had about like getting all together and storming the bad guys' headquarters? All that looked a lot better when the sun wasn't up, and you just look and there's just hundreds of flying crawlers.
Even worse because it's not the sun. That's
Oh,
scary
that's
as
Phoenix.
fuck.
Yeah, it's Phoenix. But Wolverine's like, nah, fuck that.
That's
What did he
not the
say?
sun.
Pray to your gods or something like that?
He said, pray to your gods. That's not the sun.
Yeah.
No way. Get the fuck out.
I was like, this is pretty tight. So in our final issue, 3 billion years after the inception on Earth, the sentient bacteria known as Sublime achieves its ultimate goal, acquiring the Phoenix gene.
Yeah.
It injects this genetic trait into its host. Nowhere in my notes am I talking about Apollyon,
But
who this entire time is like, bro, please, can you please make me whole?
Please make me whole. It's like, no,
you gave me no dick.
You're gonna be missing a chromosome for your whole life.
It's like, you gave me no dick, and I have half a ball, but no penis, just a ball right in the center.
Is it really 3 billion years?
3 billion years after Sublime was created.
So Sublime. So Sublime, is he the first? So he's the first mutant? I didn't know that.
I gotta double check, but yeah, he's supposed to be some sort of.
I thought Apocalypse was the first mutant.
That would predate, right?
Yeah,
3 billion years
by a lot. By a lot.
If I know my math, carry the one.
A lot. No. But yeah, billions and billions of years old. That's interesting. 3 billion years after his birth, 150 years
Oh,
after.
I didn't. And also another thing that I probably should have known. What the heck? It says that his first appearance was actually in 1991, but he was unidentified.
What was he? What was that in?
It was in Marvel Comics Presents number 79. It says Sublime was the self-appointed name of a sentient bacterial life form that came into being billions of years ago. It was created by the first ever mutant society, Threshold, during the war against the Unbreathing. I know nothing about any of this.
I'll have to look that up.
But yeah, I guess he goes way back.
Way
back in time. So yeah, I like that he's like, yo, you got the Phoenix thing, bro. I'm glad you got the Phoenix thing. You gonna help me out with it? He goes, no, I'm taking it all for myself, you idiot. I'm like, you can at least lie to the boy. You haven't injected it yet. You can at least like wait till all this pans out. But he injects himself and he injects his host, Hank McCoy, and becomes a vessel full of power. Meanwhile, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, Logan distracts Phoenix long enough for Martha Johansson to sever the connection between Jean and the Phoenix Force. I also want to know what kind of goo is in that container with that brain that kept it alive all this time.
So, talking about Martha and Cassandra Nova,
right?
That's Ernst.
That's what she says. She says, you can call me Ernst. And later on, she kind of likens them to Bonnie and Clyde. And those two were inseparable in Special Class.
And someone asked Grant Morrison later on, and he says, yeah, Ernst was always Cassandra Nova. So we see Cassandra Nova doesn't die, right? Because she's bodiless. She's formless. Right. She takes bodies or whatever, but they do take her, and Jean kind of they rehabilitate her. So the very next thing that happens, I don't even know if it is the next issue, but we see Ernst with Martha, and that's Cassandra Nova, and it always has been. Interesting.
Yeah, because right after that stuff happens is when we get into all the sublime of it all. That's when Scott and Emma go over to mess with them, to
Yeah,
mess with Sublime and stuff like that, and that's when we get introduced to the special class. So, now returned to her human form, Jean is bewildered and seeks answers from Logan, who recounts the tumultuous events of the past 150 years. And it goes as follows. After Jean's death, Scott withdrew from the ongoing struggle. We already saw that he turned his back on the idea of reopening the school with Emma. That basically creates a domino effect. Hank attempts to continue running the school, but eventually succumbed to the influence of Kick. He was also shown to be like depressed and just out of it with all the death that they had just dealt with. The Magneto stuff, the Jean stuff, Esme, everybody under the sun. Scott walked away from the school. So he desperate. He ends up getting on Kick, which is actually the intelligent sublime bacteria enabled it to take control of Hank's body.
that's it. That's the fucking whole thing. That's how we find out Sublime was that one line is supposed to tell you that Sublime was influencing
Kick all the
the
time.
entire run, the
Yeah.
whole story from that one line.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, that's insane.
I don't think it holds too much weight. But it's one of those things where I'm like, sure. I like the story, so if that's what you came up with at the end of it, then okay. Although the threat of Jean's rogue Phoenix is quelled, the crisis escalates when Sublime, now wielding both the Beast form and the power of the Phoenix, shows up. Sublime swiftly defeats the X-Men, but Jean reclaims her Phoenix powers and expels the bacteria entity from Hank's body. I love this. She's like, oh, desanitized.
Infection gone.
But that's because he does that shit to Wolverine, right? He pulls Wolverine. He takes Wolverine's healing factor,
yeah,
and then says like, "You're like a little gnat" or something like that, or "You silly little whatever." And then Jean gives him the same line back, which is always badass.
That's very cool. Did you think you would live on this earth forever? And she pulls that shit out of me and kills him as the germ that he is.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Sublime.
However, Jean's victory is short-lived as Apollyon, seeking revenge for his incomplete perfection, swiftly kills the now free Beast, cuts his head right off. As the rest of the X-Men succumb to their injuries, Jean transcends their reality, entering a new realm where she joins other Phoenix entities. One of them is Quentin Quire.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Is that a thing?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
is. I like the lyrics to this song.
It's very cool.
Okay.
A story for another time.
Another time.
But that's basically how it's treated too. Like he always meant to get to this at some point. But here's a little taste. This is what it would have been. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was really cool. I always love when they go when they become bigger than reality itself, and we're in this high concept stuff. And she's beyond all everything. What was I meant to fix? All of it.
So is the idea that the White Hot Room is not central to any particular universe?
Yeah, it's just a giant white hot existence, across the entire multiverse or omniverse, as it were.
Okay, right.
But I loved this because it's so big, and it's like Jean decides to cut this future off, amputate it, what seed and water a new future, and she has to make the choice to allow Scott to be with Emma Frost. She has to do that.
Yeah. So also, in a world where we were just dealing with a comic and talking about the impotence of Scott in general, it's quite poetic that he was the first domino in this terrible future. If he does not stick by the X-Men, if he does not reopen the school, this is the future that we get. Again, when you think about what Jean said about I finally got to see you live, we will see Scott live a completely different life. I mean, think about what happens after this comic for Scott. He makes some choices that he probably never would have made with Jean by his side. And it's a future allowed because of the Phoenix. Because Guided by a mysterious force, she undertakes the task of healing a wounded universe, symbolically nurturing it with her essence. In a poignant twist, a century and a half later, Scott reconsiders his choice, accepts Emma's offer to reopen the school, and reciprocates her feelings with a kiss, forging a new path alongside her and a new path for the X-Men.
Yes, sir. That was a good ending.
Yeah.
That little piece there, we're gonna go back to that moment as Scott in front of Jean's casket or grave. He makes the
Yeah.
choice.
I love how I love the reiteration of all the panels. Like we literally
Right.
went back in time, it literally went back to that same page, and it just ended in a different way.
Chuck Austin's run uh begins right after this, and it's 3 issues called New X-Men that continue. They kind of bridge this to the next X-Men run. It's just called X-Men. It's still Chuck Austin, but I think the next major run is Joss
Aston-
Whedon.
Astonishing, right?
Astonishing, but I think that
Yeah.
runs alongside the regular X-Men, but because there's lots of X books.
Right.
But
As
yeah,
always.
it's funny because the next run starts with like some low tier like how in-house artists, and they're like redoing the same panels from the end of
Yeah.
this. And it's so bad.
It's like a cover
Um,
song.
like why would anybody want to read this on purpose? Like
Yeah.
this fucking sucks.
Yeah. Someone
Uh,
trying to cover Whitney Houston. It's like, I don't know if you
it's
get
like
those notes.
it's like back to normal. It's like no sense of substance. You're like,
And
oh,
but isn't that interesting though? Like that baseline is normal. Like that, like that
yeah,
just like slow numbness of the universe is normal. But we just got our heart rate jacked up. Like we were on some kick reading this book, and
yeah.
it really gets your heart pumping for all these characters and these arcs. And then, like you said, we just kind of get lulled back into a sense of comfort. We get put back almost in a sublime sense. We're back into the world. The time stops again, and we put the walls back up. There's nothing outside
Yeah.
of the very rigid rules of this comic book universe. Don't even look out the window. They don't exist.
I would argue that the X-Men as a franchise never really reached these heights again until Hickman came onto the book with House of X and Powers of X. And there's a lot of, reasons for that. Some of them creative, a lot of them political, in
Most of them
particular,
political, yeah.
most of them
Inhuman stuff.
political.
Yeah.
But beyond the Claremont, it was Chris Claremont for 16 years. And then it was, the Jim Lee stuff that people, as much as it was literally the most sold single issue of a comic book of all time, when Claremont left that book, it was hard times again. There were some things
Yeah.
that people will remember forever, I'm sure, Age of Apocalypse and shit like that, Operation Zero Tolerance and Onslaught and things like that from the late 90s. But the
Yeah.
general idea was that it was blah, it was so and so, it was meh, until Grant Morrison took the book and did what he did here with it. I don't think, being someone who grew up in the era that came right after this is
Yeah.
crazy for me because I did those X-Men books were the ones were my X-Men books. The ones that came in the
Yeah.
shadow of this, the ones that had to deal with that reversed editorial decision. So I have a great opinion. Like I love books from that era, so I'm not like shitting on it.
Yeah.
But just the X-Men as a franchise and like as a feeling, like as a like look at them go. They're their own thing. They can carry their weight.
And they had the damn nerve to try to replicate those suits for Dark Phoenix. The damn nerve. The damn nerve.
I don't want to
Uh,
watch that, but I'm about to. I'm
Yeah?
headed into it. I'm watching. I already did the original X-Men movies. I did Origin. I did the Wolverine, and now it's time for
Anything you want?
First
Anything
Class.
you want to tell the people about Revelations?
Oh yeah, I actually I well, there's nothing new to say about 1 and 2. I thought 1 and 2 were excellent. Particularly, I think I like 2 more than 1. I think 2 is my favorite.
I'm on that boat, but I'm long standing of liking sequels more than the original. Sometimes.
It's not. I never really have a thing about that, but just there was something about 2 that felt really good. Really X-Men, and maybe it was the Nightcrawler of it all. Maybe Nightcrawler of it all.
To me, it's the school SWAT scene.
shit, you're right. That's where we fucking see all the kids pitch in together and we all start fighting back as mutants.
Yeah.
That's literally, we see a moment like that in this book with Scott. Or with Jean too. I think there was literally a moment where the SWATs came into the school and Jean.
That's
and
the one where he made them like throw up
shit
and piss their
themselves
pants or whatever.
Yeah. But the Wolverine is the one that I thought was interesting because I remember it being good, but I don't remember it being that good. I was like, oh shit, this is actually really good. And then comes the final act. And I was like, fuck.
Final act is a bit rough.
Fuck you, motherfuckers. They
could have faded to black after all the arrows in the back.
They teased the Silver Samurai.
Yeah. And you get a Transformer.
All the film. And they fight. He fights the Silver Samurai. He doesn't put on the fucking suit. He puts on the chest thing. Well, he fights the old band version of the Silver Samurai, but the son, no, the
yes, I know who's
father, like the actual Silver Samurai that we know, the contemporary. He never puts the fucking suit on, and the old man puts on a fucking Transformer thing on. It's the word I hated. They killed it for me. I was like, this takes a whole grade off this film,
and that comes off of the back of that badass scene with him and the swordsman, where he finally gets his powers back, and it's him against the is it the not the father, it's the asshole that had been messing with him the entire time.
The loser, the one who was mad, the one who's gonna be well, they catch him cheating. Here's the funny thing. Yeah, Mariko cheats on the guy who she's supposed to be with, which is fine, right? She didn't want to be with him anyway.
Right.
But then when they catch him with a bunch of strippers, it's a problem. Like she actually just banged Logan. Like we just watched them. Right. And it's a problem when nobody is fucking banging again. Like, get the fuck out of here.
It's a pretty cool line that he didn't know that the pool was there.
Oh yeah,
did you know
that was there? Yo, but I thought that was funny. He was just like playing fucking the saint. Like you just banged his fucking wife.
Threw him out of a window. Banged his wife, threw him out of a window. So yeah, I'm super interested in your take on Dark Phoenix. I absolutely love First Class. I think it has some moments here and there that are not excellent, but a lot of it I really really like. I think it's probably one of the only X-Men films that has moments of fun. Like it's like, oh, this is a little fun here. Like when they're testing out their powers and stuff like that, they feel like a team, Havoc and stuff.
They're smiling. Like that's literally it sounds like nothing. Like it sounds like a small thing, but it's literally because they're smiling. Like they didn't smile very much in the other X-Men movies and the original Fox ones. Unless it was like a snarky asshole thing.
Yeah. Now you got me thinking of Days of Future Past where there's just a montage of them getting gutted. Like, oh my god, way too much.
I like Days of Future Past a lot. Actually,
same.
I think it's not exactly Days of Future Past, obviously, but it's its own thing, and it's I think it's a really good thing. I enjoy it a lot. I'm going to see on the second watch. We'll see.
My beef with Days of Future Past is that it was an absolute amazing, almost Flashpoint-esque continuity changer, and they set the ground for a brand new future, and they just went back to their old tricks with it.
That was funny as hell. They were like, hey, what Logan did, he fixed everything, and then they go to Logan and it's like this actually takes place after, and I killed them all. Wait a minute, what are you saying?
Right.
How could
absolutely ridiculous. You did some major homework as far as Grant. He eventually would leave after this book, never to return to Marvel.
Yeah.
What did you learn upon your research there?
He just tried, like, as he's doing X-Men, he was pitching other things, and beyond the editorial interference on the book, people fighting and pushing and don't do this and please do that and please fix this and please fix that. There was also him pitching and just constantly being told no. He pitched an Avengers run. He pitched him and Mark Miller wanted to take over the 2099 line. And you can actually read the whole pitch, and it's pretty interesting. They wanted to do a lot, but of course turned down. He pitched Silver Surfer with Frank Quietly. That actually fell apart for probably the same reason, but probably because Frank can't get shit done.
That's true.
And then he pitched, and I think this was the final straw. He pitched Marvel Boy again, #2, and he did 4 issues of it, and there were 4 issues done. But he was having issues with editorial and particularly the president, Bill Jemas, and he had spoke to Bill Jemas on the phone about Marvel Boy, and in particular, Jemas had an issue with the fact that Marvel Boy could fly, which Grant Morrison laughed. He says he literally laughed on the phone out loud, outwardly, and was like, "This is Marvel Comics. Like, what are you talking about?" And he said Jemas hung up on him. And I guess at that point he decided, you can eat my dick.
He hung up the phone. He took some kick. He's like, fuck that.
He almost immediately. The legend has it that he quit at a Wizard Con. I couldn't find confirmation of that, but if you can find that, maybe
if you were at that Wizard Con,
right? And we got a video. We'll get that shit in front of thousands right now.
If you were in the room where he threw the trash can through the door to get out.
he said, I want everybody to look me in the eye as I say this. Suck my dick, Marvel. I hate this company. I'm going home.
That's it.
But
that's it. Did he go straight to DC after this? This is Batman, all that?
Yes, he went to Well, I think he does All-Star Superman. One of the great, literally the greatest Superman story. I love that shit so
much. Talk about pulling your adamantium dick and putting on the table. He creates a quintessential Superman story.
He signed an exclusive DC contract in 2003, and he never worked with Marvel again. I think he came back in 2019 just to do a video interview with Jonathan Hickman. And it was such a big deal that Grant Morrison was working with Marvel again just to do that video. Yeah. And it is 20 minutes long, thankfully. And they did touch on some fun stuff. And it was actually cool seeing Grant Morrison and Jonathan Hickman because of just the idea that everything in between doesn't matter.
Oh, no, totally. And then even with some of the research that we've done, to hear Hickman without Morrison in the room gush about new X-Men, like a fan, like someone who was completely and totally motivated by the stuff that Grant did. Because oftentimes, and even with this, right, we create so much stuff and we put it out into the world and we don't know how it's going to be interpreted. And you want to put your heart, your soul, and your energy into it. And I find when you do, it's almost trapped in it. And every time you go back and refer to it, there's that still beating heart because you put your heart into it. And to see other creatives realize the beating heart of Morrison in this warmed my heart, because some creators could get kind of cold to all this kind of stuff. This can be a very treadmill career, right? Where you're just kind of, there's another book and another story and another character and another arc and another crossover. But I love to see when a light or a fire is so bright that it lights other candles. And that's what this was. That's who Grant is. And terrific. I just like to know, because I read the Hickman stuff. We covered it here, House and Powers of X, if you guys want to check some of the past episodes of the Major Issues podcast. But even reading that, I remember being in awe, absolute awe. And the idea that this is a torch passing, or maybe not even torch passing, because Grant Morrison threw the torch onto the ground. He picked it up when no one else did. When it was collecting dust, he picked it up and was able to light it again. Like, fucking, come on. Amazing.
I had a great time. I feel just like you with seeing how much this inspired X-Men wise for lore, that things that become iconic, things like Genosha, things like the secondary evolution, Emma Frost, so many fucking integral parts of X-Men lore now that come from this run, and that happened for the first time here, and the Stepford Ducks, like this
in live action in Gifted or whatever.
I forgot they did that shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like these Sublime is germinating all the new X-Men stuff with Grant Morrison stuff, and it's amazing. But you gotta think it's a kick in the old Morrison for Morrison,
Yeah.
given, but maybe not. Maybe seeing the things that you thought were underappreciated be so gushed over and be so utilized, maybe it makes you feel like it wasn't all for naught, you
I
know.
don't think it was. I mean, so
But I'm in the
I
bag for
have,
it, so I definitely don't
yeah,
think it was. But like,
I liked it. I definitely liked it. In my mind, I'm creative first. So all the things that he intended to be, those are the things that are. That's my canon. Obviously, it's how do you get Magneto back thing, but I just, in my head, that's just the way it is. They got fucked. Magneto exists. It is what it is. I guess the Scarlet Witch did do it, but just final thoughts. I thought this is really good, and I can't wait to. I guess I want to read. I want to finish the Krakoa era.
yeah.
Uh, I
Does that mean reading
I
everything?
I don't know. That's kind of my thing, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
how.
no, it's a huge undertaking.
Well, I mean, again, I just want to kind of read the major vehicle, like the main vehicle of X Men. Like, just kind of see what the X Men were doing, because I know, again, creative first, Jonathan Hickman lit the spark, and then, as we know, he creates the concept of the mutant evolution, and then, I mean, the concept of all the mutants evolving from being fucking, victims to being in charge and control of their own situation. And of course, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things they fought back on, even from the beginning. He wanted to use Franklin Richards because he fucking loves Franklin Richards, because he
He
literally
helped fucking yeah.
made him iconic. And then Dan Slott's big dumbass comes in here and he's like, "Well, I need him for my run, and I don't want him to be a mutant anymore, so that you can't fucking use him." And so,
Yeah, it's like one thing to be like you can't use him. It's another thing to be like, yeah, you're not accepted in Krakoa. I was like, what? Why do you have to go that far? That's
yeah,
about a bit
and they teased the
unnecessary.
thing. They had teased the thing in House of X where it was gonna be cool as
Yeah.
fuck. You let your son know that he has a home here when he's ready.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
man,
it.
that was gonna be fucking incredible.
Walking between
Uh,
both worlds, that would have been pretty cool.
That's the thing about editorial interference when you know better. Like, I know so many things were coming, and I know what Jonathan Hickman. I know the things he had planned, because his job before they ever put him on X-Men. I remember a year earlier than that, there was the fucking rumor on the deep dark comic web that they wanted Jonathan Hickman to do X-Men, but he wouldn't touch it unless they put everything back to normal first. Because he didn't want Wolverine with hot claws. He didn't want the bullshit that they had going on.
That's funny.
So uh he meant, the idea was that he would take the X-Men and he would start them off radically, and then that would arc them back to a classic version of themselves that the company
Yeah,
can move forward with. Like, so
right.
I guess you would think classic meaning Claremont, like X-Men 97 esque X-Men, like back to normal, back.
Is that what From the Ashes is supposed to be?
No, because we never fucking got there, because
Oh,
they
he
did.
never got a full
He
yeah,
never
yeah,
got to
yeah.
do his full arc, so he only creates the radical part where
Right.
they create Krakoa and they live on the island from giant size X-Men, and it all comes around, and they're like, editorial and even all the other creative on the team are like, we like playing in this playground a lot, and we don't want to move on. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, why were you all okay with this? Like, why wasn't that ignored?
Right.
Why wasn't that ignored?
And like, I mean, to steal from Dwayne The Rock Johnson, paraphrase, the X-Men were cool again. And they weren't
Yeah.
cool for a very long time, especially with those films that they were putting out. They were being eclipsed by the Avengers in film, and they were being eclipsed by the Inhumans in comics. And it takes a real creative to dig them out of that hole. And the idea that you then just shake that person's hand, kick them on the ass, and say thanks, and we'll carry it the rest of this way, when they don't realize how they got here in the first place. It's a tale as old as time, though, especially in comics. Sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, what it's just one of those things. I guess he's doing Spider-Man now in the Ultimate Universe, thanks to some horrible circumstances. And
Right.
and we'll see how that goes. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, and like I said again, because
Me-
Grant put their heart into this story, it still beats. If you pick this book
Yeah.
up in 5 years, you will feel the same things that every other reader felt, every other writer felt that was it would go on to be influenced by this. It's radical, it's unique, it's funny. It's the artwork and the constant change of it just kind of boldens your mind as to the mass possibilities of what comics can be. Like I said, sometimes comics are too serious or are too rigid or are too formulaic, and it's not like he didn't do formulaic or tropey things that you have to do when it comes to comics, but he had fun with it, and he had fun with it as somebody who cared about it, and that care permeates through every single page of this run. Each and every one. Maybe not the Wolverine Muppet page, but you get what I'm saying. It's a lot. There's a lot there. And to be honest, I think we did both Grant and this book a justice covering it the way that we did. And I'm super glad that you were able to cover it with me because I know how much this book means to you, and I know how much just people taking a chance at swinging for the fences means for comics.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Well, thank you for sitting with me for 4 years worth of or 3 years worth of comics.
yeah, this will just end up being when you put both parts together, roughly 6.5 hours. But
Hey,
it's the best
that,
6.5 hours you ever listened to. I mean, come on, this is great. And again, the only reason why I'm so energized in this review is because of how good this story is. That's what a good story can do for you. I have not been having a great couple of weeks lately, but anytime I can tap back into some very, very good comics, it's just a chicken soup for the soul.
that's
And
the
that's what we try
thing.
to do here. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's the thing about sometimes I know it's easy to pick up a book off the shelf and just kind of read an interesting arc, but there's something about diving into a run, just a full creator vision over however many years, over however many dozens of issues that is satisfying in a different way. It's like nothing else. That's what like
Yeah.
comics is to me. I mean, as much as it started off as like cartoons and and then one smaller comics, and then like finding out that they run this way, like oh, so they're like TV shows within TV shows. Like it's like a weird existence that you can only get in comics. Grant Morrison's time on the X-Men. It's such a
Yeah.
weird thing, but it is a complete story if you read it as one. And it's I love comics, and it's so that's what makes Major Issue so cool. I get to gaslight George into reading full runs with me.
I guess you know what, we can kind of confess this. This wasn't even on the schedule. We sat
Yeah,
there, you proposed it, and I was like, just the enormity of these issues, all the dankness of everything that he's put into this, the idea of trying to translate that in any kind of way, shape, or form into a show, maybe we can do it, and maybe we could do it in two parts. And now we're done. The dust has settled, and we have
yeah,
completed Grant Morrison's X-Men. So hopefully you guys, new X-Men, hopefully you guys enjoy not only us breaking it down, but go out and seek out these issues, man. This stuff is really, really fun. And as we've already alluded to, you'll be ahead of the game. Because if they're picking from some good X-Men comics, you know they're going to be picking stuff from new X-Men. In 2 weeks, we will see the cinematic debut of Cassandra Nova. Bonkers. That's crazy. That's so crazy. And not
yeah,
even that. When I saw the attack on Genosha in X-Men 97, I said, no, they did. And in some ways, we're able to elevate the gravitas of it by putting us on the ground, right? We were watching it the entire time from the mind of a telepath, and we can kind of see some moments and some scenes where you can see like rubble and people being firebombed or whatever, but putting us on the ground the way X-Men 97 did just reinvigorates this idea that people are willing to carry the torch and carry it higher, with just the full reverence and care that they have for these stories. They're willing to, I always say it, a bad comic book adaptation is like someone telling a great joke poorly. It not only
yeah,
does it ruin the joke, but it ruins it for everybody. And everyone just thinks now it's a bad joke. So it really warms my heart when people are able to adapt this and not only adapt it and have the meaning that it already had, but almost multiply it. And I'm super excited for what the future holds because the future is the past.
Oh, yeah.
Just coming full circle. Speaking of full circle, Deadpool and Wolverine is right around the corner. So the next episode that we'll be covering is a short 4-issue episode of the Major Issues podcast covering Deadpool kills Deadpool. I'll be covering that with Cloudus Maximus, who was the very first guest on the Major Issues podcast. So again, full circle. I'm tackling a 4-issue comic after tackling two 20-plus issue comics. It'll be something fun, something obviously relevant because of Deadpool, the multiverse, and then right after that we'll be covering Wolverine or Deadpool and Wolverine. So it's going to be a hell of a time.
Should be a breeze after this,
bro. I went and got it because I have it physically, and I was like, wait a minute. And I looked in the back and it said 1 through 4. I said, oh, goodness gracious. Again, not that, this is absolutely a labor of love, but we've got a lot of chunky stuff coming up. So it'll be good to take a little bit of a breather. But you guys, the only way you'll be able to look at that or watch that, because now we are doing Major Issues live each and every week. So, we're set to record, I believe, Deadpool kills Deadpool on Sunday. That gives you an opportunity to listen to the podcast 5 days early. So something to consider. We are all over social media trying to spread this empire as far as we can take it. So make sure that you're here for the next episode when we will be covering Deadpool kills Deadpool. But we have so much already as part of the Major Issues podcast. We exist over at ComicBookClique.com, the one stop for everything Comic Book Clique, merchandise, articles written by us. And every single episode of the Major Issues podcast, that's over 330 episodes. That's over 600 hours of content talking about everything. We even have an episode doing a deep dive on every single X-Men film. But that's over 3 hours as well. But yeah, check out. We've covered every single comic book film since 2017. We've even gone back and covered some classics. We continue to try to cover the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. When I have the spirit, sometimes we cover extremely long runs like this one, Immortal Hulk, and so on and so forth. So come with us on a journey, because I came into this not knowing much. And the more I learn, the more I want to, I wouldn't say necessarily teach, but lead. I think that's what, in many ways, Jonathan Escudero was the one who had the torch in front of me and led me to some of these stories. So I'm hoping in his stead, in some of these episodes where he is absent, that I am holding on to that torch and leading people to some of the other corners of this comic book world. And we do it with everyone, with Alex Garcia, who has extremely knowledgeable on indie comics and comic books in general. Cloudus Maximus, GT Rebirth, A-Rob, the Marvel God, All-Star Asa, all these guys who come in and just pour out their passions. You can hear all of that on the Major Issues podcast, available at comicbookclique.com. We are on facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram at comicbookclique, and you can use that hashtag comicbookclique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. We're at Major Issues CBC on Twitter and also at Major Issues CBC on Twitch. There's many ways that you can help us. Not only can you go ahead and just share us to your friends who like comic books and comic book content, but you can rate and review us on iTunes. It's the quickest way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what you like and what you don't. You can go to our TeePublic store. If you go to comicbookclique.com and hit that shop CBC link, it will take you all the way to our TeePublic store where you can get designs made by me, and we get a kickback of every piece of merchandise purchased. So not only do you get to rock with an original Comic Book Clique design, but we get a little bit of a kickback, and it helps us afford the hardware and the software that we need to keep providing content free of charge. The biggest thing you could do, become a patron. Patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse, where for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, $3 people, that's one less coffee. You can help us keep our lights on here, because we are doing now 2 shows. We do Major Issues every week. We do major previews every month, and I am considering some sort of live news show. for the
Hell yeah.
for Comic Book Click, something that doesn't have to be heavily edited. We can just get on, pull up a bunch of headlines, and kind of BS about the world that we are very, very comfortable in at the moment. So consider looking out for that. But you got to be following us to do so. So follow us all over social media and head over to comicbookclique.com. But the coolest part about comicbookclique.com is we just got a brand new roommate. We are hanging out with the guys at DirtSheet Radio who talk all things professional wrestling and pop culture. And that is founded. The DirtSheet Radio Institute is founded by Charles Yogi over here. But tell the people about DirtSheet and tell them where you can find them.
Hey, so DirtSheet Radio, it's basically a hub for professional wrestling fans to enjoy the world of pop culture, but also for pop culture fans to maybe stick around and not be annoyed by the pro wrestling that's going on, I hope.
On occasion.
On occasion, we post about wrestling, but my goal is to introduce pro wrestling fans into some pop culture because, God damn it, all they do is watch wrestling. It's kind of sad. But they need stuff like this, which is why we've partnered up with ComicBookClique so that all that major goodness, the major issues, major previews, and whatever major news show we end up getting is provided to all of DirtSheet Radio's fans and all of ComicBookClique's fans. It's a wonderful partnership, and I know my friend George has seen the future.
Yes. I've been to the future where we become the latest thing to come to comic books, comic book media, professional wrestling, and pop culture analysis. But I can't tell you how we do it because I've been to the future. But if I tell you how we do it, then it'll end up messing up the timeline. And next thing you know, we got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson trying to do his own version of New X-Men where he's playing half of the characters and leaving piss bottles everywhere, which is very, very strange. I don't think that
you don't like balls.
Grant Morrison managed to not have a single bottle of piss in his entire run, so let's keep it that way. Keep The Rock away from this and keep yourselves on the major issues and Comic Book Clique train. And like I said again, DirtSheet Radio is putting out content daily. So always turn on the DirtSheet Radio because there's always something playing. Those guys over there work very hard to captivate an audience, and they've done so. So go ahead and check those guys out. You will not regret it. But we're nearing the end of this. We're getting into our Phoenix song of it all. And I guess there's nothing else left to say, but
all I ever did was die on you, George.
Come here. So all I got left to say is my name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
And this is John Escudero, aka Yogi.
And remember, whether you're an immortal mutant, a mind-reading mean girl, a Boy Scout with ruby quartz glasses, or a misunderstood Scotsman who just wanted to tell the greatest X-Men story of all time, remember that we are the Clique, and always remember that you, yes you, are worthy.